Chapter 159. Boom. When Han Dong was dragged out of the study, the door was also slammed shut. It seemed that due to Han Dong's prying, some kind of change was happening inside. He was trembling. That's right, Han Dong, who had experienced death once, was actually trembling uncontrollably. Different. It was obviously different from the feeling of death. In that instant just now, if he had really come face to face with that uninvited guest, Han Dong felt that he might have fallen into a level that was even scarier than death. At this moment, Han Dong's body was trembling. It was an instinctive fear and terror towards the absolute unknown. Not knowing was fear. What did you see? The whole room was filled with white tentacles. Viscount Ares was creating in a strange state. There was also a mysterious person supervising everything. Mysterious person. When Celeste heard this news, she was about to barge in and capture the suspect who was controlling Viscount Ares. Smack. Han Dong stretched out his right arm and grabbed Celeste's arm with all his strength. Don't go, I once saw the fallen baker without any reaction. But when I saw this person, I felt a sense of despair as if I had fallen into an endless abyss. I might die. Don't go. Han Dong's gaze was quite serious as he forcefully pulled Celeste back. What does he look like? A yellow robe covered his entire body. I can't see any features. Yellow robe? Celeste seemed to have thought of something terrifying and decisively gave up on barging into the study. She immediately helped Han Dong up and retreated with him. It was also at this moment. The fog that had originally filled the house sank into the ground and disappeared. Even the little magic I could not see it. The house seemed to have returned to normal. The sense of contamination had completely disappeared. Crack. The creative room opened again. No more white fog or tentacles appeared from the crack of the door. Instead, a trembling arm grabbed the side of the door and dragged the body out. Viscount Ares slowly crawled out. He had already woken up from his sleepwalking state and had a terrified expression on his face. There were still traces of thick oil near his eye socket. He screamed at the top of his lungs. Save me! I beg you, please save me! Why can't I get rid of the dream even after receiving the holy light baptism? Instead, it made the person in the dream move even faster, getting closer and closer to me. If I sleep with it again, I might be killed. I don't want to become its slave. I don't want to lose my qualifications as a human. It was also at this moment. More than a dozen reinforcements from the Holy Pure Knights arrived and immediately sealed off the scene. First, he used hypnosis to stabilize Viscount Alex's body. Then, he chained him up and brought him out of the mansion. The strange thing was, during the subsequent search of Maldini's mansion, the pollution that once permeated this place had completely disappeared. Later on, the members of the Knights could not detect any pollution even if they took out their sensors. It was as if the white fog and the tentacles that filled the study had disappeared along with the mysterious person. 1. During the search of Ares' study, they did not find any records of life outside the city or any works of demonic formations. There were only a few ordinary scripts and communication documents regarding the Destiny Realm. 2. In addition, according to the information revealed by the butler about sleepwalking, there was no trace of the backyard in the backyard. There was no trace of the hole that had been dug out in the backyard. Every time a hole was dug out while sleepwalking, the servants in charge of the backyard would fill it up in time. However, there were also strange things. Other than his mother, who was taken away by Cass. After tonight's incident, the 30 or so servants in the Maldini family all disappeared along with the white mist that filled the mansion. Holy Pure Knights. Radiant Courtyard Viscount Alex Maldini was completely exposed under the illumination of the holy light for interrogation. As an insider, Han Dong followed beside Knight Celeste the entire time after confirming that he was not infected. He was considered an assistant and a bystander of the interrogation. The second captain of the Holy Pure Knights, Covey Elliott, who majored in library, divine domain, led the interrogation. According to the clues, the interrogation focused on two aspects: dream and opera house. What did you dream of? The scene in the dream was exactly the same as my house. It was only because I have a unique understanding of dreams that I was able to recognize that it was a dream. I was sleeping on the bed in the master bedroom, unable to move my body. And on the wall facing me there was a painting that did not belong to my house. It was an indescribable and terrifying painting. It was filled with content beyond my understanding. It was an abstract painting formed by the distortion of different words. Then, in front of the painting, stood a person. It was only because it was the same height as a human that I treated it as a person. In every dream, it was standing beside the painting. Appearance? Characteristics? I couldn't see clearly. The darkness was its shelter. I could only feel that it was staring at me, a gaze that sent chills down my spine and made me restless. The dream was the same every day? The scene was the same, but this person kept getting closer. It was yesterday. It was already standing at the end of the bed. If I had another dream, I would fall into the dark abyss and lose the chance to be a human. I beg you, you must save me. Covey Elliott waved her hand, and the warm holy light immediately calmed Aries' emotions. The second question I heard from the butler. A few days before the strange dream began to affect you, you went to the opera house once? Aries hurriedly nodded. The writer's circle often gathers together to talk about ways to find inspiration. About 2 weeks ago, someone said that the Sacred Soul Opera House on the second floor would hold the most magnificent stage performance in history. Everyone reached a consensus and went to watch this magnificent performance the next day. It was about. At this point, Aries suddenly felt that the memories that should have been stored in his head had disappeared. He only remembered that he had seen a magnificent and grand performance. He only remembered that this performance was shocking and gave him a new inspiration for his creation. However, all the information about this opera in his memory had disappeared. Which writers did you meet to enter the opera house? Covey Elliott continued asking. Baron Simon, Viscount Wadsworth, Master Lewis. Covey Elliott temporarily left the room. After a discussion with the outside personnel, she returned to the interrogation room with the relevant information. These are the information about fellow writers that you just mentioned. When Viscount Aries flipped through the documents, his entire body trembled. His eyes were filled with fear as he kept repeating, "Impossible. Impossible," Covey Elliott said calmly. "The Sacred Soul Opera House you mentioned doesn't even exist in the entire Holy City, much less the second floor. In addition, the fellow writers you mentioned would have been missing for more than 10 years if they weren't the skeletal residents of the cemetery." The information handed to Aries was a backup of the death records of the local Public Security Bureau. In other words, Viscount Aries followed a group of dead people to an opera house that did not exist and watched a magnificent performance that could not be recalled. Chapter 160. Han Dong did not report the information he observed through the little magic eye. Celeste also kept it a secret. After all, the little magic eye could not hide it completely. If the information was leaked, it might expose Han Dong's secret. The interrogation ended. Aries was sent to the church area by the Holy Pure Knights to receive high-level protection. Considering the seriousness of the matter, they would search Aries' memories in an attempt to obtain crucial information. Third floor of the Holy City Royal Tavern. Han Dong and the others gathered in a private room and told Cass about Aries' situation. It's already the best-case scenario that Father's problem was discovered and suppressed in time. Ever since Father entered the author profession, everyone in the family has been mentally prepared. I hope Father is safe and sound. In front of his friends, Cass put on a sunny smile as much as possible. Sophia sat at the side with a dejected expression as she tugged at Cass' sleeve. She had secretly gone to Cass' house no less than 5 times. This Viscount Aries was very good to her. He had joked many times about how the two of them were very compatible. Celeste said solemnly, "That's right. This incident is far beyond the scope of your understanding. The things that the author is involved in are far from what you can imagine. Even I can't handle this incident. Don't think too much about it. Viscount Aries has made great contributions to the Holy City, and the higher-ups will do their best to ensure his safety. Cass, you should stay in the Knight Academy for the time being. If anything happens to your father, the higher-ups will inform you immediately. However, please be prepared for the worst." At this moment, Han Dong patted Cass' shoulder and suddenly stood up from his seat. "Cass, thank you for helping me deal with those troublesome trainee knights in the dormitory area. I'll go back to the mystery branch first. Brother Lon, leave this matter to the higher-ups. I'm already very grateful that you were able to save my father in time last night." "Okay. I understand." Han Dong waved his hand and left the tavern alone. Staring at Han Dong's back as he left alone, Celeste seemed to have realized something. Not long after, she also left the tavern. Han Dong was about to report to Mr. Black and White. "It's necessary to let Mr. Black and White know about the mysterious man I saw through Little Magic Eye. Otherwise, even if it was handed over to the higher-ups to investigate, it would be difficult to find the source without key evidence and details. Mr. Black and White will definitely be able to find out the truth and ensure Viscount Alex's safety." Han Dong hailed a steam-powered carriage and prepared to return to school. As soon as he got into the car, he was stunned. This was the second time something like this had happened. Another person appeared in the car. It was Mr. Black and White, who was wearing a black robe, a hood, and a black mask. "Sir, I was just about to return to the mystery branch to report important information about this incident to you." "Tell me about the important information you saw." "All right." Han Dong recounted all the details of the incident without missing a single word. Mr. Black and White was moved when he heard that the mysterious yellow-robed man had urged Viscount Alex to sleepwalk. Yellow robe, an existence of this level is personally taking action? I wonder if it's its true body that descended? A clone? Or a high-level believer? "Sir, what's the origin of the mysterious yellow-robed man?" Han Dong was also curious. Mr. Black and White explained simply, "This involves the basic system of life outside the city, and it's quite complicated to explain. All you need to know now is that most of the life outside the city that has been trying to invade and harass the Holy City are soldiers, equivalent to ordinary knights on our side. And this yellow-robed man is equivalent to one of their leaders, an existence at the level of the Great Plague Leader." "The same level as the Great Plague Leader? It's just a comparison. If it's really the yellow-robed man's true body, the Great Plague Leader definitely won't be able to deal with him alone." At this moment, Mr. Black and White suddenly reached out and stopped the coachman. The carriage stopped in front of the Maldini family's mansion. "Sir, you want to investigate this matter personally?" "Yes, with your eyes you should be able to find the source. If this incident isn't handled properly, similar incidents will happen in the future. If the author community is damaged, the impact on the Holy City will be too great. Let's go, we'll go to the mansion again." "Okay." Just as Han Dong stepped out of the carriage, a familiar female voice came from beside him. "Nicholas, I knew you would take the risk to come back. Hurry up and leave. Even if you're not afraid of corruption, this matter isn't something you can handle." Celeste seemed to be quite concerned about him. Han Dong was about to explain something when Celeste continued, "Go back and tell the Crow Prophet about the special information you saw. Their higher-ups will naturally think of a way to deal with it. You've already done enough." That, Han Dong was about to explain. The second passenger in the carriage walked down. Under the mask, a pair of crow-like eyes looked over, causing Celeste to feel a chill all over her body. "Crow Prophet?" Celeste habitually bowed out of knight etiquette. Unexpectedly, A dark shadow energy wrapped around her body, preventing her from bowing. An index finger was placed on the mask, and a voice echoed in Celeste's mind. Covert operation. Do you want to come along? Okay. To be able to act together with Mr. Black and White was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Sir, the Holy Knights have already sealed off the mansion. Do you want me to bring you in? No need. There are only 3 knights patrolling the interior. This is a covert operation. No one can know about it. As he spoke, 3 black crows flew out from his palm. Not long after, the crows drilled into the back of the patrolling knight's head. This prevented them from seeing Mr. Black and White and the others, but their other senses and movements were not affected. Moreover, as Mr. Black and White and the others entered, the 3 patrolling knights also left the mansion area at the same time. Celeste could only swallow her saliva in shock at Mr. Black and White's move. Let's go to the backyard first. Everyone went straight to the open space where Aries had sleepwalked and dug a hole. Eye-opening, the soil had been filled up. However, Han Dong's little magic eye could see through the soil and see the special marks left behind by Aries when he was digging. The marks of the digging were pieced together to form an array pattern that Han Dong could not understand. Evil array. Han Dong immediately took out the notebook he carried with him from his backpack and copied down the array pattern he saw. He handed it to Mr. Black and White. Can you activate this array? I should be able to. Han Dong did not doubt Mr. Black and White's decision. He reached out and placed his hand on the center of the array. Creak. A tentacle grew out. The array was activated. For a moment, a thick fog immediately covered the Maldini family's mansion. Moreover, there was a strange sound of watering coming from the front yard. It seemed that the servants who had disappeared had returned. This is? Han Dong was puzzled. An overlapping space created by someone. The real Viscount Aries and the disappeared servants of the Maldini family are still trapped here. They are carrying out their final work. Is this the reason why all the contamination disappeared along with the servants last night? Hearing this, Han Dong connected what he had seen and heard last night, the non-existent opera house, Aries' strange state, and the array in the backyard. He suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the butler is lying? Chapter 161. Indeed. Regarding Viscount Aries going to the opera house and digging in the backyard during his sleepwalking, these important information were all provided by the butler. Although Viscount Aries himself also had memories of going to the opera house. However, it could also be a forgery or a chaotic memory caused by the influence of the dream. In fact, Viscount Aries had never been to the opera house at all. Last night at midnight, the white fog suddenly spread out in the Cass family and led everyone into the overlapping space. Someone had activated this array in the backyard. The butler who lived in the backyard was a major suspect. Mr. Black and White, overlapping space? It means that there are 2 different spaces in the same place. Is that what you mean? That's right. This array is both the main core that maintains the overlapping space and the switch button. Last night, someone activated the array and led you into the overlapping space. That's why you witnessed the white fog, the tentacles, and the mysterious person. When the Holy Knight's reinforcements arrived at the mansion's entrance, someone closed the array and switched back to the original space. Therefore, the white fog and tentacles completely dissipated, and you couldn't even detect the slightest bit of contamination. Han Dong still didn't quite understand. Then, what does it mean that the real Aries is trapped here? Who was the one who was escorted to the Holy Knight? The one imprisoned here is only a wisp of Aries' spirit, a wisp of spirit used specifically for creation. He should be a special writer chosen by this incident. Since he started having the same dream 10 days ago, he has been induced to create a special work for someone. Every day at midnight, the array will be activated on time and lead him into the overlapping space to create a secret work. I see. After Mr. Black and White finished explaining, It was clear what to do next. Enter the main house and stop the creation. I'll leave the cleaning of the little things to you. I'll appear when necessary. You should pay attention to one thing. The servants of the Maldini family have been contaminated for more than 10 days, and their bodies have been corrupted. Also, when dealing with these white tentacles, be careful of the direct influence from the spiritual level. The goggles may fail. After saying that, Mr. Black and White transformed. He turned into an ordinary crow and landed on Han Dong's shoulder. The crow prophet is so powerful. Celeste, who was at the side, was completely speechless. Even though Mr. Black and White had not experienced the incident last night, he was able to understand the truth of the incident as a bystander by cooperating with Han Dong's narration. While exclaiming in surprise, Celeste was already prepared for battle. The armor, flail, and light shield were all equipped. Multiple buffs were applied, and he circled to the front yard of the mansion. Nicholas, it's best if you follow behind me and use your special eyes to observe. If necessary, you can deal the final blow. In the face of such a large number of fallen, you'd better avoid fighting. Celeste had just finished giving her instructions. 2 powerful auras came from behind. Han Dong had no scruples in this overlapping space that isolated him from the outside world. Coupled with the fact that he was pressed for time, Han Dong directly unleashed his full strength. 2 anomalies appeared at the same time. The moment Chun-Li appeared, she used the white fog to move stealthily in the dark. Celeste had already seen the possessed one, Chun-Li, in the previous Beck incident, so she was not surprised. However, she had never seen this bald man with a saw blade on his head, a chain in his hand, and pure black eyes. Togu Gonzalez. And because of this man's appearance, ash particles floated in the air, and the temperature also rose. The power coming from this man's body was not weak at all. Demon? Where did you get so many summoned creatures? Celeste had come into contact with many knights who majored in control. She knew some rules about summoning. Even for official knights, very few could control 2 summoned creatures that matched their level at the same time. Moreover, these humanoid summoned creatures were more difficult to control than simple-minded magical beasts. Let's talk about it later. Let's deal with the gardener in the front yard first. Okay. Her gaze shifted to the garden area. Under the shroud of the fog, the plants in the front yard became strange. Vines, branches, and flowers swayed strangely in the air. As for the gardener in charge of the garden, he had completely degenerated and corrupted. Unlike the former, fallen Beck could barely maintain his human form due to the support of the Audiobook, and his consciousness was relatively intact. But the gardener here had lost the posture of a human, and his consciousness had long withered and corrupted. 1. Large patches of skin peeled off and white tentacles grew out. 2. Their arms turned into a flesh-shaped funnel, watering the plants with their own body fluid. 3. Their lower body turned into a giant suction cup, making it convenient for them to quickly absorb water from the fountain and replenish their body's nutrients. A total of 5. I'll take care of 3 here. You delay the remaining 2 for a while. Okay. After all, he was one of the best in the night group. Celeste was fearless and immediately rushed forward. The steel flail in her hand was immediately covered with a layer of holy flame that restrained the contaminated bodies. The flail swept horizontally. The first gardener, who did not have time to react, was directly smashed by the powerful flail attack. The contaminated body parts scattered on the ground were eroded by the holy flame and were quickly annihilated, not giving the gardener any chance to revive. 1. Avenger's shield. The holy shield flew out. It hit and ricocheted between the other 2 gardeners, causing damage and stun at the same time. 2. Celeste immediately closed in and swung her flail, destroying the second stunned gardener. Stun resistance. Just as Celeste turned around, the third gardener actually resisted the stun and aimed his funnel arm at her. A highly polluting body fluid sprayed out. Celeste, who had experienced many battles, quickly raised the holy shield. Sizzle! White smoke rose from the holy shield. If it came into contact with this contaminated liquid for a long time, it might damage the holy artifact. Celeste gritted her teeth and decisively activated the flail's active skill. A normal-sized holy hammer appeared out of thin air above the gardener's head. Puff! It fell vertically and completely crushed the third gardener. 3 done. Deep corruption. Nicholas shouldn't be easy to deal with, right? Celeste took a deep breath and went around the strange garden area as fast as she could to support Han Dong. However, the scene she saw when she walked out of the garden, it did not match with what she expected, Han Dong trying his best to delay the two fallen. Han Dong, with the black crow perched on his shoulder, did not make a move at all. He even sat leisurely at the edge of the fountain. The battle had just ended. Togu's direct confrontation and Chun-Li's assassination had completely eliminated the two gardeners. The gardener's body was completely burned by Togu's lava ability. It was clean and neat. This scene made Celeste speechless. In just over a week, Han Dong, who had escaped from the Fate Realm, had already improved substantially compared to the last time he was in the underground area. Han Dong recalled the two servants and stood up to point in the direction of the mansion. Sister Winograd, let's go! Chapter 162. Characteristics. Anomalies that had been modified by the prison were the same as Han Dong. They were not afraid of pollution. When dealing with these fallen, there was no need to worry about pollution at all. Therefore, Togu's copper skin and iron bones were nothing to deal with these gardeners. His lava ability could also burn the body and prevent regeneration. The only pity was that Togu could not gain growth experience by defeating these low-level fallen. If Togu wanted to grow in battle, he had to defeat individuals stronger than him. While walking towards the mansion, Celeste was still surprised by Han Dong's progress in such a short period of time. Including these two servants, Nicholas's own strength can already reach the lowest level of a knight. No wonder Mr. Black and White values him so much. Moreover, the fact that he is not afraid of pollution is crucial. In the future, he might become the #1 investigator in the Order of Knights, greatly reducing casualties when exploring outside. It's a pity that there's no way to poach him into the Order of Holy Knights. With his characteristics, it's safest for him to follow Mr. Black and White and stay in the Order of Plague. After a while, Han Dong was already standing in front of the East Building. He planned to continue using the hidden secret passage in the master bedroom to go to the creation room. Creak, however, when he pushed open the door, Han Dong was stunned. The scene that greeted his eyes was not the Maldini's mansion at all. It was the corridor of mist. The door faced a deep corridor, and the end seemed to correspond to a complicated fork. There were 2 doors every 3 meters in the corridor, and it was impossible to determine which room Alex was in to carry out the final creation. This is a maze? At this time, the crow on his shoulder spoke. It can create overlapping spaces, and it can also carry out internal modifications according to the creator's will. When the gardener was killed by you, the guy behind the scenes already knew that you were coming. He temporarily transformed the mansion into a complicated and huge maze area in order to stall for time and complete the final creation. A wisp of Viscount Aries' spiritual body should be locked up in a certain room. Find it as soon as possible. Okay. Eye opening. The little magic eye, which was almost a cheat, was activated. For a moment, a liquid-like mist came into view. Han Dong could see the flow of the fog clearly. Even though there was a small amount of fog leaking out from under each door, the source was still deep in the corridor. If he followed the mainstream, he should be able to reach the source of the fog. Alex's spiritual body should be there. However, the fog that flowed between the passages would occasionally construct a white tentacle and make intimate contact with the individual. Even Celeste, who was wearing goggles, equipped with holy light armor, and buffed with multiple buffs, could not withstand the attack. When they were entangled by the white tentacles, they would immediately freeze. Just as Mr. Black and White had reminded him, the goggles were useless. His mind and thoughts were directly affected. For a moment, some kind of light-colored pattern formed around Celeste's eyes. Her own consciousness, on the other hand, was drawn to a grand theater with gorgeous decorations, where she was forced to watch a bizarre stage play. His body was fixed to the chair. His eyes were forced open by the device. Celeste could not shift her gaze away at all. She could only watch the monstrous stage play from beginning to end. Some kind of corruption was directly generated in her brain. Sister Wino. At the critical moment, the tentacle was cut off by a claw. Han Dong's shout pulled her out of the terrifying illusion. Contact intracranial corruption. This is a high-level corruption that I can't resist. When she woke up, Celeste hurriedly drank a cup of holy water and tried her best to forget the scenes related to the horror play in her memory. If she wanted to resist this kind of intracranial corruption, she had to establish a sound defensive measure in her brain. And Celeste was unable to perfect this step at the moment. This was the flaw in her ability. "Are you not affected?" Celeste asked in surprise. "Yes. I should be fine." As Han Dong spoke, he reached out and grabbed a white tentacle that grew under his feet. He was not affected at all and even pulled it out by the root. Although she knew about Han Dong's characteristics, this scene still left Celeste dumbfounded. No one would not want to have such a bug-like ability. The most fatal problem when fighting against creatures outside the city was the problem of corruption. Han Dong asked with concern, "Sister Wino, you can't resist this kind of corruption?" "Who said I can't resist it? I'm not very good at intracranial defense." "Then how about this?" At this moment, Han Dong reached out his right hand. He gestured for her to hold hands. This way they could completely avoid the possibility of the two of them getting separated. Moreover, if Celeste suffered from intracranial corruption again, Han Dong would be able to detect it immediately. Celeste stared at the skinny young man who was about the same height as her. She bit her lower lip and slowly reached out her hand. This was different from the last time at the trading center. This passive way of holding hands made Celeste very uncomfortable, and a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. How did you not get affected by the corruption?" "When I was carrying out the ghoul mission with Cass, I realized that I was not affected by the corruption. I'm not sure what the exact reason is. This time, I'll have to thank you." "Yes, leave the matter of resisting the corruption to me. If we run into any trouble while passing through the maze, I'll need you to solve it, Sister Wino." Han Dong deliberately said this to balance the roles between the two of them. Of course, under the effect of the little magic eye, Han Dong went against the flow of the fog and quickly passed through the maze area. During this time, Celeste suffered from mental corruption many times, but she was pulled back to reality by Han Dong in time. Once was fine, but after it happened so many times, Celeste slowly developed a strange sense of dependence. In her eyes, Han Dong was no longer a trainee knight. Along the way, they would occasionally encounter fallen servants that suddenly appeared from the side door. The holy flame flail struck continuously and quickly killed the target. Just like this, the two of them reached the last passage of the maze at their fastest speed. There was no longer a fork in the road at the end, but an open door. The source of the fog was inside this door. Viscount Ares should be inside. They stepped through the door. Once again, they came to the familiar creation room. Mr. Black and White was right. A wisp of Viscount Ares's spirit was trapped here and was working on his novel day and night. The remaining servants of the Maldini family were all gathered here. They surrounded the room in 3 layers to ensure that Viscount Ares's final creation would not be affected. "I'm done. I'm finally done." It was like the joy of climbing out of the abyss. Ares revealed a relieved expression and lay on the table, unable to move. A unique novel was completed. At the same time, the white tentacles on the ground wriggled and gathered. A mysterious yellow-robed person that could be seen with the naked eye was formed. The situation was slightly different from last night. He had specially come to check on his work. Caw, crow's caw, Mr. Black and White revealed his true form. Chapter 163. Crow feathers fell. First, a black mask floated in the air. Black feathers gathered. The crow prophet, shrouded in a black robe, appeared. Crow domain. A halo similar to black water ripples formed under his feet and covered the entire creative studio. Caw, caw, caw. Hundreds of crows formed in the domain. Even Han Dong could feel a sense of danger. Every crow was deadly. When the fallen servants gathered in the creative studio sensed the intruders, they lost their human form. They pounced over crazily. Mr. Black and White waved his hand. The crows quickly and accurately drilled into their mouth. Strange objects swam in their bodies and destroyed their cores almost instantly. They immediately disintegrated and turned into a pool of sewage. At the same time, a crow quietly flew to the desk and sucked Alex Maldini's spirit body into its body. If this wisp of spirit body was destroyed, Alex would lose his ability to create, and the Holy City would lose an important author. However, his important creation had been completed. Alex was no longer of any use to the mysterious yellow-robed man. Therefore, the mysterious man didn't stop the crow from taking him away. It's been hard on you to clean up the fallen along the way, Knight Celeste. Leave for now and forget what happened here. Mr. Black and White waved his hand again. Celeste immediately left the study and was forcefully taken out of the mansion by a crow. This way, only Mr. Black and White, Han Dong, and the mysterious yellow-robed man were left in the creative studio. In the yellow-robed man's hand was a finished product created by Alec. On the cover were the English words, Legend of the Dragon. Based on the cover and title, it was just an ordinary fantasy novel. There was nothing special or dangerous about it. Mr. Black and White started the topic. I wonder what is the purpose of an existence of your level sneaking into the Holy City? According to the Knight's investigation and my personal understanding, you don't seem to have done anything to the group of authors. You're only targeting Viscount Alex. Although Alex is a core member of the Writers' Association, he has no real power. You can only get some superficial information about the Holy City from him. It's useless. And the finished product in your hand doesn't seem to be anything special. What is your objective? Mr. Black and White asked. The yellow robe slowly rotated. However, the yellow-robed man he saw this time was different from the one Han Dong saw last night. He could see it clearly with his naked eye, and the pressure he released was not strong. It did not make Han Dong feel like he had fallen into the abyss at all. Under the hood was the old butler of the Maldini family. However, some white tentacles appeared in his eyes. The mysterious yellow-robed man had controlled the steward through the method of possession, secretly plotting all of this. Using the butler's body, the yellowed teeth slowly opened. As the foreign body squirmed in his mouth, he spoke fluent English. I don't mean any harm. I'm not interested in invading your city at all. In fact, I'm against it. After all, you humans are really interesting, especially your cultural heritage. I'm just bored outside. When I was traveling around the world, I came across a few large flying dragons that you humans brought out from the strange space. Their forms, cries, and the scales on their bodies made me very interested. After killing them, a fantasy novel idea about the age of the dragons emerged in my mind. Therefore, I intend to find a writer who is good at fantasy to help me write a novel of good quality according to the system framework I conceive. After all, life outside the city is really boring. It's good to read novels to pass the time. I'm different from those guys. I'm very interested in the various cultural products of you humans, especially this kind of novel that's very imaginative. It's very interesting. This Legend of the Dragon was completed under my supervision. If you're interested, I can make 2 copies for you on the spot. See if the world view of the dragons I've constructed is very interesting. Such an explanation made Han Dong dumbfounded. There was neither a major plan to invade the holy city, nor an evil idea to corrupt humans. The main purpose of this mysterious yellow-robed man was to catch an author and help him write a novel. Under its guidance and coercion, Viscount Ares was able to complete a long fantasy novel in a short period of 10 days. This method almost squeezed out all of Viscount Ares' brain power. Listening to the mysterious yellow-robed man's explanation, Mr. Black and White had a thoughtful expression. "Can you give me a copy?" "Okay." A large number of tentacles grew out from under the yellow robe. Like a printer, a copy of the novel was immediately produced. Mr. Black and White, as a reviewer, quickly read the novel on the spot and gave a simple review. "It's a pretty good novel. It should be able to reach the level of a bestseller in the Holy City. However, there are still flaws in the racial division of the dragons. I hope to highlight the characteristics of each race." When the possessed butler heard this, he looked excited. "Really? That's great." Mr. Black and White took the opportunity to make a rather important suggestion. "If you still want to write in the future, I can find a more professional writer to work with you. This way, you won't have to take the risk of sneaking into the Holy City. We can also feel more at ease." The yellow-robed man quickly nodded. "Okay. But it doesn't seem easy to see you, right? If it's not convenient for you to see me, you can ask my student to help you pass the message." Mr. Black and White said this and patted Han Dong's shoulder. It seemed that he had already planned to change the topic to Han Dong. "It's this young man who can see my true form." Several white tentacles flashed through the butler's eyes, and he looked very interested. Regardless of whether Mr. Black and White would attack him or not, he walked straight towards the young man, Han Dong. Han Dong lowered his head the whole time. As he listened to the approaching footsteps, his whole body was covered in sweat. He couldn't interrupt this kind of high-dimensional conversation at all when he was half a meter away. The butler widened his eyes and observed Han Dong from a close distance. "The eye of the dead. A human can actually learn such a skill. And your brain seems to have a long history? There's a fishy smell that I don't like, and at the same time there are all kinds of strange smells. Interesting. I like unconventional people like you, a crow with a brain. Okay. If I have any works that I want to create in the future, I'll contact you directly. Please be sure to provide me with an excellent writer who can meet my requirement. Otherwise, I'll have to choose a suitable writer myself." Mr. Black and White's mask cracked into a smile. "No problem. Then, what benefits can we get?" "What are they?" A tentacle grew out of the possessed butler's fingertip and scratched his nose. After thinking for a while, he answered. "This young man hasn't left the holy city, right? If you encounter any danger outside the city in the future, you can ask me to solve it. It's only limited to small situations. If you get into trouble with something big, I won't help you. I don't like to get into trouble." Mr. Black and White continued to ask, "How can you be sure that you'll help him and not assimilate him?" "Believe it or not, I don't care. If I can't find a writer through your channel, I can use a similar method to sneak into the holy city. Please allow me to think for 3 minutes." "Go ahead." The butler smiled and waited quietly. While Mr. Black and White was thinking, he changed his mask. Wearing the white mask, he analyzed the important deal with a different way of thinking. 3 minutes later, he made a decision on time. "Okay." The possessed butler turned to Han Dong. "Young man, stretch out your hand." He opened his mouth wide, and a tentacle grew out of the butler's body and touched the back of Han Dong's left hand. There was a strange feeling of his soul being touched. A yellow seal was slowly outlined. "Young man, we will be connected through this seal. Happy cooperation." Chapter 164. The Maldini family incident came to an end for the time being. No one knew that Mr. Black and White, Han Dong, and Celeste had secretly entered Maldini's mansion. After the crow brought Viscount Alex Maldini's spirit body back to his main body, he gradually recovered from his weakness and fear. He no longer continued with the terrifying dream. After a few days of recuperation and nutrition, his tired brain gradually returned to normal. He only needed to rest for a month before he could completely return to normal and continue writing-related work. Due to the lack of key evidence and the lack of clues in his memory, this incident became an unsolved case. Subsequently, the Parliament strengthened the protection of the author group. As this incident did not cause any substantial harm to the Holy City, it slowly disappeared with the passage of time, and no one paid attention to it. A stargazing room in front of the fireplace. Mr. Black and White held Han Dong's left arm and carefully observed the back of his hand. Even I can't see any clues without actively activating the yellow seal. Very good. As expected of a high-level existence. Sir, to be honest, Han Dong felt that such a transaction was extremely risky. More importantly, most of the risk was placed on Han Dong. The faceless head was already troublesome enough, and now there was the mysterious yellow seal. Han Dong already had a premonition. If this continued, Han Dong suspected that one day, Mr. Black and White would send him out of the city and deep into the enemy's rear as a traitor. The risk of your head is much higher than this seal. As long as you don't activate the seal, no one in the Holy City will discover it. I think that since you have a certain connection with the creatures outside the city, try to deepen this relationship. You have an additional channel for development compared to us. Apart from the destiny space, you can also grow from the creatures outside the city. Yellow Cloak, it was a very special high-level existence as well. According to our current understanding, it is different from the evil and arrogant creatures outside the city. It is a maverick and almost neutral existence. Once such a relationship is established, it will be very beneficial to you overall. I believe in Sir's decision. Han Dong nodded. Of course, the ultimate benefit of this relationship still depends on you. I hope that you can use this mark to slowly build a good relationship with Yellow Clothes. This will be of great significance to you and to our sacred city. Yes, sir, I have a question. Could it be that you've already calculated this step before you sent me to Maldini's house? A smile cracked under the black mask. It was White who performed a short-term divination on you alone. I only calculated that this banquet would have an important impact on your life, but I didn't expect that this matter would involve the mastermind, Yellow Clothes. 3 months later, the night collective training would be held in a new training area outside the city. When the time comes, you can try to use this yellow seal, if the conditions permit, and see what effect it will have. It's up to you to weigh the pros and cons. As for Yellow Shirt's need for a writer, I'll take care of it myself. Okay, thank you, Mr. Black and White. Yes. Practice your basic skills well and hide your special eye well. 3 months later, get the list of candidates for the night collective training. In the following period of time, Han Dong made a detailed learning schedule for himself. 1. In the early stage, he would carry out comprehensive training in the study of pestilence and reach the 4-star standard. After that, if there was a chance, he could ask the great master of pestilence about natural disasters and auxiliary knowledge. Han Dong was very interested in dual cultivation. 2. Spend 2 hours a day practicing Little Magic Eye to increase proficiency and completely restrain the polluted aura emitted by the eyeball. 3. Learn and perfect the content of the first chapter of the Book of the Dead, Eye manuscript, and improve the ability of the possessed Chun-Li by attracting the evil aura. He would strive to make Chun-Li's overall strength equal to Togu's. Han Dong also planned to find a furnace with a high enough temperature through Koslin to improve Togu and restore his strength to the level in the movie as soon as possible. 4. Through morning runs, night runs, and some of the Crusade's body training foundation that he got from Cass. strengthen his body and familiarize himself with the G1 form. According to this learning schedule, Han Dong's daily sleeping time was limited to 6 hours. It was common for him to study at night under the light. About a month ago, at night, in the dormitory, Han Dong had just finished reading the book and was about to go to sleep. A numbing feeling came from the back of his left hand. Han Dong was shocked and immediately went to the bathroom. The long-awaited yellow seal appeared for the first time. For a moment, a large amount of white mist overflowed from the cracks in the bathroom walls, the sewer pipes, and the water outlet. Han Dong saw a blurry figure in a yellow robe condensing behind him through the square mirror on the sink. As the tentacles slowly grew from the inside of the yellow robe, one by one, distorted words were written on the glass. The little magic eye had to be activated in order to understand these strange words. After leaving the message, the yellow robe disappeared with the mist. The yellow seal faded and the bathroom returned to normal. The message left behind made Han Dong feel helpless. The content was as follows: Frowny face, the legend of the Dragon Clan has met my expectations. The content is simply too captivating. I have already thought of the follow-up story and a larger world framework. Please prepare a writer who is good at fantasy for me. I will need about 30 days. Dear reader, the above text is a high-level secret text. Remember to wash your eyes after reading this chapter. Han Dong did not know how to comment on the strange behavior of borrowing a writer to write a book. After that, he immediately reported to Mr. Black and White, and the matter was quickly resolved. The writer who accepted the task also received a personal gift from Mr. Black and White. It was considered a legitimate transaction with the Yellow Coat. No one was affected during the whole process, and the sacred city's public security was normal. Moreover, when the manuscript of The Legend of the Dragon 2 was handed in, the mysterious Yellow Coat was very mysterious. This mysterious man in yellow was actually very polite. He left the word "thank you" on the mirror. Han Dong was even more curious about the character of the Yellow Robe, who was powerful enough to bring destruction to the Holy City. The 3-month study was coming to an end. Han Dong had basically achieved the 4 requirements he set for himself. 3 days before the start of the preliminaries of the night training, Han Dong asked Mr. Black and White to meet the Great Plague Leader. Just in time. The 3-month deadline is approaching. Let me see what you've learned in the past 3 months. If you can meet the standards, I'll let you meet the Great Plague Leader in private. Chapter 165. Stargazing Room. Stars twinkled. The fungal community that was spreading wantonly, the giant claw marks on the ground, and other damages caused by Han Dong were restored to their original state as the stars twinkled. The test was completed. Mr. Black and White handed a handwritten letter to Han Dong. Take this letter and go see the Great Plague Master. If he has time, he should be able to give you a few words of advice. Coincidentally, he is now in the Deadwater Swamp. Is there anything I need to pay attention to? Asking a few simple questions is fine. However, it is best to wait until he and the witch are done with what they are supposed to do. Understood. The Deadwater Swamp was one of the dangerous areas in the Mystery Branch. It was located behind the Dark Moon Tower. The edge of the swamp was also the border of the Night Academy. Twisted, large, and strange trees with terrifying human faces were one of the symbols of the swamp area. A large number of carnivorous plants lurked in the swamp water that was 1/3 the height of the trees. Once they felt a slight vibration on the surface of the water, the plants would open their bloody mouths or extend their branches that had the ability to pierce and suck, quickly hunting for food. Pieces of rotten and moldy wooden planks were suspended in the air by the vines of the strange trees. They were the only path in the swamp area. The Deadwater Swamp occupied an area similar to the Dark Moon Forest. It was also the main place of education for the Mystery Branch. Similar to how Han Dong studied plague in the old sewers, many apprentice knights who studied witchcraft lived in the swamp for a long time. Witchcraft was only available to female mystery apprentices. When Han Dong walked between the wooden planks, he could see many treehouses with different styles built at the ends of the branches. The requirements for witch apprentices were relatively high, and these treehouses were their main dormitories. Witch Kalangia Mason had ordered Kiran to spend more than 80% of his time in the Night Academy in the past few years in the swamp. In order not to attract attention, Han Dong walked between the wooden planks in a bird's beak costume. At this time, most of the witch apprentices were in their treehouses reading books related to alchemy and herbology. Some were brewing witch soup, some were making voodoo dolls that could curse others or help themselves withstand damage, or they were practicing drawing different kinds of tactics. Every once in a while, a group of witch apprentices would be summoned to the Witches' Academy at the center of the swamp. Accepting Witch Chironia Mason's test was equivalent to an irregular work report. Once the report was not up to standard, they would face extremely severe punishment. Therefore, the witch apprentices rarely left the treehouse and spent most of their time training. However, Han Dong, who was wearing a bird's beak, still attracted the attention of many apprentices. Many pairs of eyes with dark circles were looking at the mysterious apprentice who did not belong to Deadwater Swamp through the glass window. There were many discussions about Han Dong's arrival. After walking in the swamp area for about half an hour, creak, the sound of a door opening came from the twisted tree not far from Han Dong. A woman with slightly twisted limbs crawled out from the door of the treehouse at the top. Using a crawling method similar to that of spiders, they easily crawled and jumped among the twisted trees, as if they were already familiar with life in the swamp area. As she was crawling down the tree, her black hair hung down and covered her face. Combined with her spider-crawling posture, it was a little creepy in the gloomy swamp that was shrouded in a dark moon. When she was 3 meters away from the wooden plank, the woman lightly leaped down. She lightly stepped on the wooden plank with her bare feet. Through the cushioning process between her toes and the soles of her feet, she did not put any pressure on the decaying plank. She stood face to face with Han Dong. The woman wore a loose and ordinary white linen coat that was tightened at the waist. She also wore a pair of leggings below to prevent her secret from being exposed while she was crawling. There were a few strange bracelets on her wrist. There were herbs, ebony, octopus specimens, bat wings. There were also some exquisite magical tattoos on her palms and the joints of her arms that could effectively assist in the casting of spells. Half of her face was covered by a wooden mask, while the other half revealed her beautiful and deep black eyes. She also had slightly thick lips, an oval face, and short black hair. "Student Nicholas, is that you? What are you doing in Deadwater Swamp?" This little Turkish girl actually recognized Han Dong's identity. After all, the beak costume given by Mr. Black and White could conceal one's aura and identity. Student Mia. That was right. This was the outstanding student who had entered the mysterious academy in the same batch as Han Dong, Mia Semenovich. While everyone had gathered in the hall after passing the dangerous test, Mia had made a large amount of medicinal herbs and distributed them to the injured students. Moreover, Han Dong had also seen her in the corner of the first floor when he went to the Adventurers Guild for the first time. "It's really you. I knew it. When you were taken away at the last minute, it wasn't because of a problem with the test. It was because Mr. Black and White wanted to see you. This portable beak costume with the goggles function was also given to you by Mr. Black and White, right?" "Yes. Mr. Black and White is my second teacher." "Wow. I'm so jealous." Mia clasped her hands together and crossed them in front of her chest. Her bright black eyes examined Han Dong seriously. Hee. Han Dong didn't know how to respond other than laughing awkwardly. "Student Nicholas, what are you doing in Deadwater Swamp?" Generally, non-witch apprentices are forbidden to enter this place. If you don't have a special permit and are discovered by Teacher Chironia, you'll end up in a miserable state. Han Dong didn't reply. He just showed the letter in his pocket. The crow wax seal on it was extra conspicuous. Mia was slightly excited when she saw the letter. She took the initiative to lead the way. So you were recommended by Mr. Black and White. Then there's no problem. I'll take you there. I heard that Teacher Chironia is meeting a very important guest today. All the work reports of us which apprentices have been cancelled. I don't know if she has time to meet you. It's okay. I can find the way. I can go there alone. Okay. Han Dong directly bypassed Mia and continued to go deeper into the swamp. Even if the little magic eye was closed, it could still help Han Dong find the direction. He went straight into the swamp. He didn't need anyone to lead the way. Just as he approached the center of the swamp, Han Dong suddenly stopped. A cold voice came from under the beak mask. How long are you going to follow me? With the shaking of the branches behind him, Mia, who was hiding among the branches, jumped onto the wooden board again. She stuck out her tongue awkwardly. I just want to see why you're looking for Teacher Chironia. Also, you can't go any further through the wooden board. It's your first time in Deadwater Swamp. You probably don't know how to get to which school. I can take you to Teacher Chironia's residence. Okay, thank you. Chapter 166. Indeed, it was as Mia said. As they approached the central area of the stagnant swamp, the strange trees were no longer dense, and the wooden planks used for walking also came to an end here. A large swamp lake occupied the central area. There were still a large number of carnivorous plants hidden under the lake, so it was impossible to swim forward. In the center of the swamp lake stood a dark Gothic-style building. It was the witch school, the place where the witch apprentices reported their work. In addition to reporting their work, every week there would be a public lecture in the school, and all the apprentices had to attend. Under the guidance of Mia, they detoured to a place similar to the swamp dock. A small wooden boat full of frogs that was soaked in water and covered in moss was docked here. Not to mention 2 people sitting on it, Han Dong even felt that if he pushed the wooden boat out alone, it would not take long before it sank. Can this boat sit on it? Just give me a tip. Mia took out 2 copper coins from her pocket and gently placed them on the bow of the boat. Moist water plants and vines overflowed from the water surface. They stuck close to the hull and slowly built a medium-sized swamp fisherman on the boat. The appearance of the swamp fisherman also blocked the hole in the hull. Let's get on the boat. Under the illumination of the dark moon, accompanied by the swamp fisherman and the witch apprentices, traveling on a boat in a quiet and uninhabited swamp lake, it was really a unique experience. The lake was huge, and with the current speed of the boat, it would take at least 20 minutes to reach the witch school. Do you want to eat? Mia took out a bag of snacks from her waist, which was filled with exotic dried octopus, bat jerky, snake meat, and dried jellyfish skin. No need. When Han Dong smelled this strange smell, there was a slight squirming reaction in his intestines. I usually don't share such high-grade food with others. Then I'll eat it myself. Mia ate with relish, licking her fingers from time to time. Right. You should be participating in the night training, preliminaries in 3 days, right? Mia, who still had a curly octopus tentacle hanging from the corner of her mouth, suddenly raised her head and asked. Yes, great. I've also signed up. When the time comes, let's go together. Our batch of freshmen should only have the 2 of us participating. We can take care of each other. We'll see. As the wooden boat approached the center, Han Dong realized that the dark Gothic style, witch school, was built on a small island with shallow water. Come with me. Sensei Chironia should be receiving guests in the reception hall or office. Under Mia's lead, they entered the strange-looking school area. However, after a round of searching, there was no one in the school area. Strange? Where is he? Where does Witch Kaluna live? Han Dong asked. The top floor of the Witch Academy is the teacher's private residence. However, the teacher usually doesn't bring guests up there. Unless the teacher wasn't receiving an ordinary guest. Could it be that we're meeting the Great Plague Leader today? The relationship between the Great Plague Leader and the witch was very clear to this group of witch apprentices who lived in the swamp. At the thought of this, Mia actually became a little excited. Yes, bring me up. I'll wait at the door. Okay. They went up the spiral staircase. The closer they got to the top floor, the more they could smell the stench of soaked fish eyes. When they arrived in front of the witch's home, they were surprised to see that the door with the skull hanging on it was slightly ajar. The wrinkled human head hanging on the door suddenly let out a hoarse voice. Mia, what are you doing here? Who is this person? Teacher. He's Mr. Black and White's follower. He's here to look for you with a letter. Looking for me? I'm very busy today. It's not convenient for me to see anyone. Han Dong immediately replied, Hello, Sensei Chironia. I'm here to look for the Great Plague Leader. You guys go ahead. I'll wait outside. The wrinkled human head hanging on the door didn't respond to Han Dong's reply for the time being. After a while, the wooden door slowly opened, indicating for the two to enter the house. Let's go. Teacher allowed us to enter. Mia led Han Dong into the witch's home. A giant animal's fur was used as a carpet. All kinds of insect, fish, and amphibian specimens were hung on the wall. In addition, there were all kinds of glass bottles soaked in samples, more like soaked wine or pickles, all kinds of animal eyeballs, whips, wings, and some strange aquatic eggs on the display table in the hall. At this moment, the Great Plague Leader, Mograine, walked out of the inner bedroom while fastening his belt. Then, first, a wisp of liquid-like black gas flowed out of the room. The witch, Chironia Mason, who was in charge of teaching witches in Deadwater Swamp, slowly walked out. This deputy director of the mystery branch, who was second only to Mr. Black and White, was completely different from the hunched old witch with a huge hooked nose that Han Dong had imagined in his mind. She wore a long dress made of many layers of black gauze. She had a charming and perfect figure without losing her curve. She wore thick purple-black eyeshadow. She wore 2 skull earrings inlaid with gems. She wore lip, tongue, and nose studs. Beautiful, enchanting, mysterious, and strange. This was the ruler of Deadwater Swamp. So, it's you. The Great Plague Leader immediately recognized this disciple of Mr. Black and White. Last time, it was Han Dong who helped decipher the treasure map of Dragonbone Waste. The Knights of Pestilence had obtained an important treasure that improved the overall strength of the team. The Great Plague Leader's prejudice against Han Dong's psionic ability was also reduced by half because of this. As soon as they met, Han Dong immediately handed the letter of recommendation to him. Unexpectedly, the Great Plague Leader did not even look at it. He casually sat on the leather sofa next to the fireplace. There's no need for this letter of recommendation. Speak. Why are you looking for me? If it's related to the plague, I can teach you some practical skills. Since you're a disciple of Mr. Black and White, you can be considered half a student of mine. Just as Han Dong smiled and was about to ask a question, the Great Plague Leader waved her hand. The witch waved her hand and 4 strange cups of purple tea were placed on the table. She gestured for everyone to sit down and have a chat. Thank you, Teacher Chilonia. Han Dong purposely found a seat facing the Great Plague Leader and sat down. Who knew? The Great Plague Leader sat on his legs and leaned against his sturdy chest. She did not care about the gazes of the juniors. This intimate behavior made Mia blush. She raised her teacup and tried her best to avoid eye contact. Ask away. Yes. I'm here to ask about the plague transformation and the other fate class. Han Dong's question immediately attracted the Great Plague Leader's attention. Mia, who was holding her teacup, stared blankly at this student. Chapter 167. There were many knights who followed the example of the Great Plague and took up a secondary fate profession. But there were very few who could achieve anything. According to statistics, Knights who majored in a single fate profession were more likely to reach the door. Even if the Great Plague looked like this and combined with the Calamity talent tree, it would still be harder for him to reach a higher level than a knight who specialized in a single class. Therefore, the Parliament had issued a clear order. When an individual wanted to allocate fate points to a secondary profession, they had to report it in advance. They were only allowed to take the risk if they had a guarantor. Therefore, when it came to the minor profession, the witch was also very surprised. After all, Han Dong was Mr. Black and White's disciple. She did not expect Mr. Black and White to allow Han Dong to make such a risky choice. Which, Chironia Mason, had actually reached the level of a dean 5 years ago. She had the strength to become a mystical sorcerer. But because of Mr. Black and White's existence, she could not sit in that position no matter what. Mr. Black and White naturally knew that Han Dong wanted a minor profession, so he wrote this letter of recommendation. The witch was confused and thought to herself, "Is that crow betting again?" Just when the witch was trying to use a special eye technique to spy on Han Dong's uniqueness, the Great Plague Elder, Mograine, put a hand on her shoulder and stopped her in time. The Great Plague Elder's other hand moved back and forth on his thick beard. "My calamity is fundamentally different from your plague, so it's not suitable for me to give you pointers. However, I can tell you some empirical things about your minor specialties. What minor do you plan to take up?" Han Dong answered without hesitation. "Library." Han Dong was immediately attracted to library when he first chose his fate. The nature of this profession corresponded to magic. It was only because the Faceless Head's attribute matched mysticism that Han Dong chose mysticism. He wanted to familiarize himself with the head's ability and disguise it, thus establishing a firm foothold in the Holy City. After learning that the Great Plague Master's major was the Crusader army and his minor was the Plague Master, Han Dong's desire to pursue a minor was growing stronger and stronger. From Han Dong's point of view, the magic system involved in the library was directly related to the technology of this world. He, who had been engaged in scientific research before his death, was eager to understand the magical elements in this world. The Great Plague Chief nodded. He didn't explain the basics, such as the balance of the supporting classes, the problem of stamina, and the problem of investing destiny points. The Great Plague Chieftain merely raised a finger. Don't be influenced by any external factors or have any ulterior motives. Let nature take its course. Just one fate class isn't enough to satisfy your needs. That's why you've chosen to take up a second supporting class. Back then, I only wanted to use some special methods to further temper my body. After learning that the old sewers of the Mystery Branch was a good place to temper one's body, I found a chance to sneak in and make my first contact with the Great Plague Master. The feeling of immersing myself in the plague pool for the first time was unforgettable. I've never thought of minoring in mysticism. I've just gone with the flow and did it. Fate is the same. Do you understand what I'm saying? Han Dong's eyes flashed when he heard the Great Plague Chieftain's words. This was the answer Han Dong wanted. Han Dong knew the basics, and the Great Plague Chieftain's words were very important to Han Dong. Thank you for your advice, Great Plague Chieftain. I understand. I will seriously consider the matter of the minor. Not bad. The fact that Han Dong could understand the Great Plague Chieftain's words meant that the Great Plague Chieftain approved of him. I won't disturb you any further. Since he had gotten the answer he wanted, Han Dong prepared to leave. He had to take a good rest in the last 3 days and prepare for the upcoming preliminaries of the night training. When the time came, a large number of elites from the National Royal Knight Academy would participate. Han Dong had to give it his all since he could not use the Faceless Skull's abilities. Unexpectedly, just as Han Dong got up, the witch called out to him. "Kid, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Since you're already here, why don't you stay for the night?" Han Dong replied awkwardly, "Teacher Kylona, I have something to do in the stargazing room. Wait a moment. The witch's eyes revealed that she was very interested in Han Dong. She immediately contacted Mr. Black and White through the clockwork device. Crow, can I borrow your student for a day? Don't break him. Enough is enough. Okay. I'll teach him well. Hearing this conversation, Han Dong felt very uneasy. The witch revealed an evil smile and pointed at a guest room. Mia is a student that I have high hopes for. Since you're already here, you and Mia can both stay. There's half a pot of witch soup left that can nourish the body. I'll heat it up for dinner later. It's very helpful for you young people. You two stay here and get to know each other better. I still have an important matter with the Great Plague Chief, so I'll see you later. After that, the Great Plague Chief picked up the witch in his arms and went back to his room. This kind of high-level battle would naturally cause a big commotion. The two young people sitting in the hall were also affected. Their faces were red as if they had suffered internal injuries. That, Mia blushed, and even her words became stuttering. Let's go outside for a walk? Han Dong was in a good state. After all, he had heard about the story between the two big shot. Okay, Mia was too excited. When she got up, she accidentally bumped into the white bone ornament hanging in front of her. Thud. Like a personal item, half of his face that he always wore was knocked off. The right side of Mia's face was exposed. There were many strange markings on it, like a birthmark or some kind of special tattoo. With his special vision, Han Dong saw some black smoke on the surface of these markings. It should be some kind of curse mark. He didn't know why it was branded on Mia's right face. Because the right side of her face was exposed. A large number of small poisonous spiders crazily crawled out from the floor and the cracks in the walls. Mia hurriedly picked up the mask and put it back on. As the mask covered the marks, the spiders also turned into black smoke and disappeared. Mia was a bit nervous and wanted to explain. Han Dong was already standing outside the door, pretending that he hadn't seen or heard anything. He waved at her with a nonchalant expression. Let's go. Chapter 168. It was difficult for Han Dong to be interested in the opposite sex. This characteristic had been proven a long time ago. This was also why Han Dong refused Mia's friendly help many times on the way to the swamp. Because Han Dong could feel that once he was entangled with her, it would be difficult to get rid of her. Of course, there was another important reason why Han Dong didn't want to have a deep relationship with Mia. But now, under the witch's intervention, the two were forced to form a relationship. But, the moment when Mia's mask fell off, Han Dong showed an unfriendly and strange smile, as if he had other thoughts. At the edge of the island where the witch apprentice was, there was a twisted tree about 10 meters tall. Mia led the way and quickly climbed up. She sat on a thick branch that could support the weight of 10 people, and at the same time, she greeted Han Dong at the bottom and signaled him to climb up. Your body. Do you need my help? Mia suddenly remembered that Han Dong was very thin and weak, and it might be difficult for him to climb this 10 meters tall tree. No need. Unexpectedly, Han Dong only relied on his right arm, and with his sharp nails dug into the bark, he pulled his body up quickly. When he sat on the branch, he deliberately separated himself from Mia by a person's width. Just now, did you see it? Mia still had lingering fears about the mask falling off. It seemed that the secret of the right side of her face was a knot in her heart, and she didn't want anyone to see it. Everyone has their own secrets, it's normal. Han Dong didn't care at all. If she wanted to take out all the secrets, Han Dong was definitely bigger than her. No, my secret is not something good. When talking about this matter, Mia's face was sad, and her fingers gently brushed the half-mask covering her face, as if she was thinking of some sad past. Some kind of curse? Han Dong was also interested, and the hidden little magic I faintly saw some black gas on the surface of the mark. It was dangerous and fatal. Moreover, when the mark was exposed to the air, a terrifying spider domain was immediately generated. It was very strange. Mia, who was branded with the curse, did not seem to be affected at all. At least, Mia's physical condition was not much different from a normal person's. When Han Dong uttered the word curse, Mia was shocked. How can you tell? Han Dong shrugged and replied with a calm expression, Didn't I just say it? Everyone has their own secrets. I have mine too, and it's not a good thing. These words were like an invisible finger that just happened to touch Mia's heartstrings. Mia bit her lips slightly. She couldn't help but rub her fingers back and forth. She slowly moved her body, trying to get half a body's length closer to Han Dong. Can we exchange secrets? I'll say a little, and then you'll say a little. Han Dong didn't even think about it before he decisively rejected her. No. But if you're willing to share with me one-sidedly, I'd be happy to listen. Mia pouted angrily. Why are you like this? I'm not going to tell you. Han Dong didn't reply. He just sat quietly on the tree branch. How about this? Mia seemed to have thought of a very good idea. Anyway, Teacher Kailangia wants us to stay in the Witch Academy for a day. The matter between teacher and the Great Plague Elder might last for a long time. How about we have a duel? The loser will reveal the secret. Just say it if you want to. It's not like I don't want to listen. I'm so angry. I'm just asking if you dare to have a duel with me. There's an open combat area in the Witch Academy. Whoever loses will agree to one request of the other. All right. Han Dong didn't have much to do. He just happened to be interested in Mia's curse. At the same time, he could use Mia as a benchmark to see his current abilities and what standard he had reached as an apprentice knight. Under Sophia's lead, the two of them arrived at a damp and spacious combat area at the bottom of the academy. This is the area where us witch apprentices practice all sorts of destructive black magic and combat practice. We will follow the basic rules of the apprentice knight's duels. No fate items or one-time items are allowed until one side concede. Come. Han Dong didn't seem to need any warm-up exercises. He could start at any time. Mia's initial thought was to share some of her worries with Han Dong. She didn't expect that Han Dong would first touch her heart with just a few words. Then, he killed the conversation with just a few words. She was both moved and angry. Just as the two of them arrived at the underground training ground, Witch Kailangia seemed to have noticed the movements of the two juniors. While she was admiring her lover, she lightly tapped on a mirror at the end of the bed. The surveillance image of the underground training ground immediately appeared on the mirror. I arranged a room for them to be alone. I even put aphrodisiac powder in their tea. I purposely gave them a chance to understand each other. These two little fellows actually went to duel. I really don't understand the thinking of young people these days. It would be a waste if they don't take advantage of their youth to enjoy themselves. But then again, my dear, what do you think the outcome of the duel will be? The Great Plague Witch stared at the two people in the mirror and asked, This girl is the spider witch you mentioned? That's right. Mia has a unique talent as a witch. Her misfortune at birth has become her strength at birth. Mia had cleared the 3-5-star newbie event and had even received 2 fate points due to her outstanding performance in the event. In the past few months, I have helped her activate her spider talent. She has no problem fighting above her level. In addition to her talent in black magic and herbology, she will definitely become a unique and outstanding witch in the future. The witch gave an extremely high evaluation of Mia when talking about her. This was also why she wasn't particularly angry when Mia brought Han Dong to her door and interrupted her beautiful time with the Great Plague Witch. If it were any other witch apprentice, they would have been drowned in a pig cage. My dear, who do you favor? Is it that crow's disciple, or my student? Of course, someone chosen by black and white can't be bad. Since you chose this female apprentice, I will choose this kid. This kid will lose miserably. The witch had a certain opinion of Mr. Black and White, who was the head of the Great Plague Witch. Right now, her lover was lying on the same bed as her, and he was still calling her Black and White in such an intimate manner. This made the witch very angry. She immediately created a stitched bat and sent a message to Mia, who was in the training ground. She told her to go all out and use her spider abilities to make Mr. Black and White's skinny disciple suffer a little. Chapter 169. You are about to face one of Mr. Black and White's special students. You will not be able to defeat her with just 2 or 3 normal spells. If necessary, you will need to undo a layer of the spider curse. Do not worry about going berserk. I will be watching the entire battle. If there are any problems, the Great Plague Master and I will stop you in time. If you have any hesitation in this battle and lose, I will be very disappointed. The bat's voice shocked Mia. She called Han Dong here just to vent her anger. She did not expect that the witch would suddenly pay attention to this battle and even ask her to use the power of curse. Mia was not willing to do so, because she could not fully control the power of curse. Once she used this power, she would fall into a frenzied state and could possibly seriously injure Han Dong. However, if she did not meet the witch's requirements, Mia would be severely punished. What's wrong? Han Dong, who was warming up, noticed something was wrong. No, nothing. It's just that you must be careful, Nicholas. I might use some abilities that even I can't fully control. I will be careful. The two of them placed all their destiny equipment and one-time use items in a corner. They stood 10 meters away from each other. Let's begin. The witch did not force Mia to use the power of curse at the beginning. At the beginning of the battle, Mia wanted to test Han Dong's ability with her occultism ability. Mia threw a small bag of lizard bone fragments into the air. The sorcerer's mark on the back of Mia's hand flashed. Immediately after, a dark energy flowed out from her palm and quickly wrapped around the lizard bone fragments that were thrown into the air. With the bone fragments as the core, a total of 10 dark bone arrows floated around Mia's body. It was a long-range offensive spell in the form of a carrier. This was the spell that Mia had mastered in the 3 months since she entered the school. This spell was fundamentally different from the long-range offensive spell that corresponded to the library. This type of carrier spell consumed very little energy. By wrapping a small amount of energy around a carrier, such as bones, bat wings, eyes, etc., and stimulating the carrier's internal energy, it used less energy to cause more damage. But the limitations were also very obvious. One needed to have enough materials. In the fate space, which restricted the carrying of foreign objects, the number of spells an apprentice could cast was extremely limited. It would be very dangerous if they encountered a powerful enemy in the early stages. Mia waved her hand. 10 dark bone arrows shot towards Han Dong. Its speed was comparable to an arrow shot by a professional archer. Within a second, it hit Han Dong, who was 10 meters away. However, the moment Mia waved her hand, she noticed that Han Dong didn't have any intention of dodging. Or rather, Han Dong's weak and small body simply couldn't dodge such a swift bone arrow. Why aren't you dodging? He should be using plague energy to block it, right? Even the witches and the Great Plague Master, who were watching the battle, also thought that Han Dong would create a plague barrier. Or he could directly use plague impact to offset the dark bone arrow. The next second, something unexpected happened. Whoosh! Han Dong waved his hand twice in a row. Crack, 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 crack. The sound of bones breaking. The lizard bone that was the carrier of the dark bone arrow was accurately cut off by the claw and fell to the ground. Because the carrier was destroyed, the dark magic energy covering the surface also dissipated. The spell was forcibly broken. This scene caused Mia's eyes to widen in disbelief. She was very clear about one thing. The lizard bone had an average length of 3 centimeters, and the dark bone arrow had an average length of 20 centimeters. The location of the carrier was uncertain. It could be at the head of the dark bone arrow, or it could be at the tail. In addition, the dark bone arrow was wrapped in a coat, so it was impossible to see the specific location of the carrier with the naked eye. 10 dark bone arrows were shot almost at the same time, and flying at high speed, it was impossible to identify the distribution of all the carriers at the same time and make a precise cut. If he missed, one of the dark bone arrows would definitely penetrate Han Dong's body, and the result of the battle would be decided. In other people's eyes, Han Dong's behavior was desperate, but from Han Dong's perspective, this was the simplest way to save the seed's energy. When he faced Pennywise the Clown, Han Dong's small magic eye could see through the 4 grasshopper legs that were attacking at high speed and cut them off one by one. 3 months of hard work. Facing this kind of ordinary dark magic attack. Even if his small magic eye was hidden in the dark and not fully opened, he could clearly see the basic structure and trajectory of the dark bone arrow. Together with the super accurate attack from his special right arm, it was not a problem to break the carrier inside the dark bone arrow. Mia gritted her teeth and continued to throw out all kinds of strange witchcraft carriers from the cloth bag. At the same time, she also quickly ran and cast spells. She let the witchcraft attack Han Dong from different angles. Dark bone arrow, bat bomb, spirit snake. However, when this series of witchcraft got close to Han Dong, there was no sound of piercing or explosion. They were all accurately cut off by Han Dong and became ineffective. In any case, even if Mia increased her casting speed to the maximum, Han Dong still did not make any mistakes. He just waved his right arm and used his sharp claws to break all the witchcraft attacks. How did he do it? Mia, who was panting, temporarily stopped attacking. Her face was full of disbelief. It's not just his right arm. He also has some hidden skills. If this continues, I will lose. In the field of witchcraft, these were the only offensive spells that Mia knew. The rest of her spells were auxiliary in the creation of herbs. If this continued, she would lose this battle due to the exhaustion of energy. Mia gritted her teeth and pressed her hand on the mask, activating the hidden curse. A wisp of black and purple gas overflowed from the inside of the mask and gradually spread throughout her body. Crunch, 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 the sound of joints twisting. Mia's body was twisting abnormally and horribly. 4 large lumps gradually protruded from her back, making Mia look like a hunchback. There were also barbs on each of her joints, which was an inhuman mutation of the curse. Ah! Mia seemed to be in pain during this process. She screamed and the veins on her forehead bulged. Han Dong did not intend to take the initiative to attack at all. He just waited quietly. It was as if he was deliberately waiting for Mia to show her real ability. It was not that Han Dong was arrogant, but it was premeditated. Whoosh! The clothes on Mia's back were torn by the swollen flesh. A total of 4 dark spider legs with purple spots grew out crazily. The spider legs were sharp and wrapped with cursed black gas. Once stabbed by the spider legs, it would be infected with a fatal curse. Besides, Mia's fingernails grew correspondingly and were wrapped with the same black gas. The barbs on each of her joints were also dangerous. More importantly, overall attributes increased greatly. With the assistance of the 4 legs on her back, coupled with the fact that she was endowed with spider consciousness, Mia's movement was almost the same as a spider. In the crawling position, her movement speed was beyond imagination, and there was even a dragging phenomenon. This was the effect of the mysterious curse. Moreover, she was still wearing the mask on her face. This was only the first stage of the curse. Of course, Mia was still unable to control the first stage. Her eyes were covered with a turbid aura, and she was slightly manic. Chapter 170. So fast, with Mia's original 4 limbs, it was equivalent to having 8 legs to crawl on the ground. Moreover, the spider's legs were very flexible and powerful. Carrying Mia, who was light, the speed of crawling exceeded the human limit. Moreover, Mia could use the barbs at her joints to pierce into the ground and make some rapid turns. In short, her mobility was greatly increased. If I'm hit, the curse will probably affect me. I'll try my best to suppress her without injuring her. He maintained a distance of 5 meters from her. Mia circled Han Dong as fast as she could, trying to find a blind spot and an opportunity to kill him in one shot. Mr. Han Dong, do you need me to make a move? As if sensing danger, Chun-Li, who was practicing evil techniques in the prison, took the initiative to send him a voice transmission. No need. There's something wrong with this girl. I need to confirm something myself. Okay, be careful, sir. Just as Han Dong's consciousness was connected to Chun-Li's, he was slightly distracted. A murderous intent swept over him. Mia, in her spider form, seized this opportunity. She found a blind spot behind him and quickly attacked. Her 4 sharp spider legs, which were surrounded by the aura of the curse, tried to pierce Han Dong's body when they were within striking distance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sharp spider legs stabbed out fiercely like spears. Every attack was aimed at a spot that was not easy to dodge, and there were even some preemptive movements that were extremely difficult to dodge. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to hit Han Dong. Although Han Dong's body looked small and thin, he was able to dodge every attack at the critical moment. He even seemed to be able to do it with ease. What's that? In the bedroom on the top floor, the witch and the Great Plague Master had temporarily stopped their activities because of the intense battle between the 2 juniors. The witch noticed an important detail. Just as Mia was in her spider form, Han Dong also underwent a small change. An eye grew between Han Dong's eyebrows. Sensory sutures? Mr. Black and White's masterpiece? No. This is not an ordinary eye. Is it a fusion of a crow and a human eye? That wasn't right either. Due to the existence of this eye, this kid's perception had received a huge boost. So much so that he could see through the carriers of black witchcraft and see through the spike. This eye, where did it come from? In contrast to the witch's amazement, the Great Plague Chief remained silent. He naturally knew where the eye came from. It was this eye that helped the Knights of Pestilence decipher the important treasure map. Staring at Han Dong's proficient use of eye in battle without any pollution leaking out, the Archmage of Pestilence smiled knowingly. In 3 months, I can already use this eye skillfully. Even Kalangia couldn't see the problem. As expected of the young man chosen by the Black and White, being able to control pollution is also a good thing. After the Great Plague Chieftain finished his mental exercise, he said, "Perception is one aspect. To be able to nimbly dodge such a fierce attack shows that his physical fitness is not bad, especially his nerve reflexes. 3 months ago, he was still a weak little guy who was seriously dragging us down. That was right. The reason why Han Dong could dodge every spider leg's piercing was mainly because of his little magic eye. When Mia used the power of the curse, Han Dong also turned on his cheat. Facing the spider leg's piercing attacks one after another, Han Dong only needed to continuously see through. He fed the trajectory of the spider leg's piercing attacks to his brain in time. After the brain processed the information and provided the best dodging route, his body made the corresponding dodging movements. Eyes, brain, body functions. None could be missing. All of a sudden, Mia's movements suddenly sped up in an attempt to break the balance. At the same time, she used her mouth to try to bite Han Dong's most dangerous part of his body, his right arm. This sudden change disrupted Han Dong's dodging movements. She changed speed. Hidden under his sleeve, a sarcoma seemed to be wriggling on his right arm. Han Dong's brain worked extremely fast. He reacted in 0.1 seconds and switched from defense to offense. Boom! In the face of Mia's biting mouth. Han Dong's right arm seemed to have become bigger than usual. His palm was the size of a professional basketball player. just enough to hold Mia's face with his 5 fingers. Great strength, the difference in strength was very obvious. Han Dong offset the speed of Mia, who was in spider form, in a horizontal direction. Bang! He pressed her heavily to the ground. If the training ground wasn't made of loose soil but cement instead, the back of Mia's head would definitely be smashed open by this knock. Even if it was soft soil. But because the back of her head was hit, Mia fell into a state of confusion for a while and temporarily lost her ability to move. Of course, there was a price to pay for switching from defense to offense. 2 sharp spider legs brushed Han Dong's body. One spider leg scratched his waist and abdomen, injuring the dermis. As a result, a purple-black curse mark appeared on the wound. However, for some reason, the curse could not spread in Han Dong's body. The other leg cut open the sleeve of his right arm. Through the cut in the sleeve, a thick arm with skin covered with meridians could be vaguely seen hidden inside. A terrifying giant eye could even be faintly seen on the arm near the shoulder. Similarly, the curse at the cut could not spread in Han Dong's arm. As some tentacles wriggled in the wound, the curse was slowly absorbed. The outcome has been decided. Han Dong could have crushed Mia's head with the strength of his right arm while her consciousness was in turmoil. Mia was affected by the curse and became manic, but the mask was still on her face. She was still in the first stage. She still had a part of her consciousness and could barely control herself. She knew very well that she had lost this competition. She had lost after trying her best. Even if the witch would scold her, she would not be too strict. The curse was lifted. The spider legs on her back and the barbs on her joints gradually turned into black smoke and returned under the mask. The power of the curse was completely sealed again. The turbidity in Mia's eyes dissipated. Han Dong also retracted his right arm and returned it to its normal size. At the same time, the suture bats created by the witch to watch the battle exploded. It seemed that the witch was not in a good mood. She no longer monitored the situation in the training ground and was ready to vent her anger on the body of the Great Plague patient. Mia, who was pressed into the soil, had a weak expression. Sweat the size of beans kept dripping from her forehead. She stammered, You're so powerful. I'm sorry. I used a little too much force. You should be able to stand up by yourself, right? Although Han Dong apologized, he turned around and retreated a distance away. He had no intention of supporting Mia at all. His seemingly straight action had other intentions. Yes. Mia lay on the ground for half a minute before she recovered slightly and slowly got up. I lost. I'll keep my promise and tell you the secret of my curse. To their surprise, Han Dong scanned the surroundings with his little magic eye and waved his hand coldly. Don't worry. There's no need. In any case, what you say won't be the truth. I remember that you said before that you can make a request to the other party based on the outcome of this match, right? Mia had a look of surprise. Han Dong continued, The witch did not continue monitoring this place. I'll be direct with you. Mia Semenovich, your acting skills still need to be improved. I only have one request. Don't pester me in the future, all right? The moment Han Dong said this, Mia, who had a weak and pitiful expression, instantly changed. Her black hair hung in front of her face, and she had a sickly expression. She stared at Han Dong with her lifeless black eyes. She revealed an extremely terrifying and twisted smile. Oh? When did you find out? Chapter 171. Deadwater Swamp, the outer forest area. The sparring was over. Under Han Dong's suggestion, the two temporarily left the witch school by boat. Because the following conversation was likely to involve important privacy issues between each other. After walking along the floating planks for a while, they climbed up the twisted trees and arrived at Mia's treehouse number 89. Compared to the witch's house, Mia's treehouse was very simple. A large number of witchcraft casting tools were piled up in the corner. There was a wooden table, a mirror, a wooden stool, and a hammock hanging by the window. Sit. Mia deliberately handed the only wooden stool to Han Dong. It's good to stand. Along the way, the two of them didn't have any unnecessary conversation, leaving all the private conversations here. Oh. Then wait for me. Mia stared with her expressionless eyes and found a white candle made with cuttlefish oil in the corner of the material area. Hiss. Mia spat out a large amount of spider silk from her mouth and covered the walls of the treehouse with the white candle as the eye of the formation. As the candle was lit, the spider silk overflowed with a purple-black luster, forming a unique ceiling enchantment. This completely isolated the treehouse from the outside world. Okay. Hurry up and tell me, when did you notice it? The first time I saw you, I had a faint sense of dissonance. Mia looked surprised and widened her expressionless eyes. She deliberately leaned closer and whispered, "The first time? When you were choosing a mentor?" "Well, when you distributed herbs to the injured students, your smile and behavior were disguised very well and relatively coordinated. Unfortunately, your eyes didn't match well. At least in my opinion, it always felt strange and not particularly natural. In addition, I accidentally saw you in the Adventurers Guild Hall. As soon as you entered the school, you formed a team with others and began to complete some reward missions. Your eyes when you formed a team with other adventurers were completely different from when you distributed herbs. You didn't look like a newcomer at all. You also bumped into me in the Adventurers Guild. We're really fated." Mia hugged Han Dong's arm and even took the initiative to rub her face on his arm, trying to act coquettishly. Only when a green aura that symbolized the plague seeped out of her arm did she let go. Mia was not angry at all. She continued to ask, "What else? What exactly went wrong with the series of interactions in the swamp area? I feel that other than being a little clingy, my overall performance is pretty good." Being clingy is one thing. The main problem lies in the witch's house. After hearing the strange sound, you pretended to be an ignorant girl and blushed nervously. Upon hearing this, Mia interrupted Han Dong excitedly. "Shouldn't that be the case? Could it be that he should be more proactive? Using this kind of atmosphere to slowly push you down?" "No," Han Dong shook his finger. "Your acting of blushing and being nervous was pretty good. There weren't any problems. It's just that your subsequent actions were too deliberate. When I saw how he pretended to be nervous and got up to deliberately knock off his mask, I felt like laughing. First of all, the mask is an important tool for sealing the curse. Isn't it a little inappropriate for it to be knocked off? Also, your panicked expression after the mask was knocked off was too fake. You need to practice more in the future to make everything seem more logical and natural." "Is that so? But I had to find a chance to take off my mask and expose the curse in order to arouse your interest. Only then would I have a way to get closer to you, and only then would I be able to find out your secret," Han Dong replied with a cold expression. "There are many ways to indirectly expose the curse, but you just had to choose an inappropriate method. However, your deliberate act of exposing yourself made me somewhat interested in your true identity. Only then did I agree to spar with you. Through close contact, I was able to determine your true nature." "Ah? You even discovered my true nature. What am I?" Mia had an expression of surprise. "You pretended to be a pitiful person who lost a loved one due to the curse, and carried the curse to embark on the night's journey. In essence, you should have a direct connection with this curse, right? Your so-called painful past was most likely caused by you. Not only did you not feel any guilt, you even enjoyed it, using it as a special tool to arouse the sympathy of others. As for the source of the curse, it should be outside the city. Disguise. You even attempted to create a second personality to perfectly control the image of Mia Semenovich as a model student. You wanted to graduate from the Night Academy with top grades and excellent character and blend into the upper echelons of the Night Order. That's all I can deduce at the moment. After hearing all this, Mia revealed a satisfied smile and couldn't help but sigh. Wow. At first, I thought that you relied on this mutated demon eye to make a living. I didn't expect that the most powerful part was your brain. When I first saw you, I smelled something that was homologous but strange. I thought that we could become good friends, but I didn't expect you to be so cold. At this point, Mia suddenly hugged Han Dong from the front. Her lips gently rubbed against Han Dong's ear as she whispered, "Shall I give you one more chance? As long as you're willing to be with me, I can satisfy any request you have in life." In terms of appearance and figure, Mia was definitely one of the best among her peers. Furthermore, she had a unique charm in her bones. However, Han Dong wasn't interested. In addition, Han Dong didn't want to get into unnecessary trouble. In his eyes, Mia was a troublesome woman. Han Dong gently pushed Mia away and walked towards the door of the treehouse. "Please tell Teacher Chirona and the Great Plague Warden that I'm not feeling well and will be going back to rest. In addition, please remember my only request for you after you win the spar. Don't pester me." The moment he said that, Han Dong could feel a strong killing intent coming from behind him. There were even a large number of poisonous spiders crawling out from the cracks of the wooden boards of the treehouse. However, Han Dong didn't turn around, because Mia didn't dare and couldn't kill him. After a while, the killing intent disappeared. Mia asked the last question that she tried to persuade him to stay when they parted. "You also have a secret that you can't let others know. Aren't you afraid that I'll report you?" "As you wish." Han Dong pushed the door open, waved his hand with his back, and quickly left the treehouse. Mia was left alone in the treehouse. She grinned and took off the mask that was used to seal her. A long purple-black tongue stretched out from her mouth and licked her face. "Nicholas, you're the most interesting student of the same level that I've ever seen. The group of stupid trainee knights in the Adventurers Guild can't be compared to you. Let me stop pestering you. It's not easy for me to meet someone of the same kind. How can I give up just like that? The more you dislike others, the more they want you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to participating in the Oi Night training, outside the city with you. At that time, we should encounter a very dangerous situation. Once we get separated from the main group, we can have a world of just the two of us. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it." Just thinking about it made Mia tremble crazily. Her hands and feet began to twitch unconsciously. Chapter 172. Han Dong left the witch's swamp on the way. Although the witch wanted the two of them to stay, she had other intentions. She wanted the two of them to speed up their relationship. Since Han Dong won the competition, the witch was not in a good mood. Han Dong's departure was the best choice. Also, Han Dong estimated that it would be difficult to swallow the so-called witch's banquet. After leaving the swamp area, Han Dong was ready to return to the student dormitory. He wanted to have a good rest in the 3 days before the night training preliminaries began. Moreover, Miss Chin Li's cultivation of evil rituals seemed to have made some progress recently. Han Dong had to be on guard during this critical period. If Chun-Li could grow, it would indirectly increase Han Dong's overall strength. Although Togu's overall combat strength was stronger than Chun-Li's, and there was even a unique mark behind his name. But Han Dong still liked Chun-Li more. She didn't like him emotionally. Instead, it was because Chun-Li had willingly followed Han Dong and accepted his shelter. Therefore, she still retained some of her special feelings and human consciousness. At all critical moments, Chun-Li could provide more direct help. Just as the caretaker of the graveyard brought over a carrion horse for Han Dong, a familiar voice rang out. "How did it go?" Han Dong immediately looked at the tombstone on the other side. There was a crow standing on it. "I got the answer I wanted." "That's good. It's up to you to decide whether you want to pursue a minor. I look forward to your performance in the night training." "Okay, I'll do my best." By the way, did anything interesting happen on your way to the swamp? When Mr. Black and White asked this question, it was as if he had foreseen something in advance. Nothing. Caw caw caw. Mr. Black and White's connection with the crow was cut off. The crow flapped its wings and flew away. Whether or not Mr. Black and White had foreseen the matter regarding Mia Semenovich, Han Dong still thought it was better not to talk about it. Night Training, full name is National Royal Night Academy, Elite Training. The National Royal Night Academy's teaching system was similar to the university Han Dong had attended when he was still alive. They used a semester system. 4 months was a semester, and 2 semesters were a school year. There were similar winter holidays and summer holidays. However, the apprentice knights couldn't relax during the holidays. The upcoming summer vacation corresponded to the night training. Apprentice knights who were not selected for the training would have to complete enough bounty missions or meet certain academic requirements during their vacation according to the requirements of the academy and their mentors. If they failed to meet the standards, they might face the possibility of being expelled. There is one more thing that needs to be emphasized here. Before the seed of destiny sprouted, the amount of destiny points invested was not directly related to one's strength. As mentioned earlier, the investment of destiny points would only increase the upper limit of one's energy before a qualitative change was achieved. This allowed the individual to use their abilities for a long period of time or multiple times. An individual's strength was largely dependent on the subsequent learning of the knowledge system, actual combat practice, and one's own talent. National Royal Knight Academy, Elite Training. It was open to all apprentice knights who were at the seed stage. It was equivalent to a screening mechanism for elite. Apprentice knights who were only allocated 1 destiny point or those who were allocated 5 destiny points but had yet to experience the seed breaking could all participate. During the training period, students who performed outstandingly or were special would receive the attention of the higher-ups. Moreover, the training was of great significance to the apprentice knights. Through the internal special method of the training, the potential of the apprentice knights would be drawn out and their individual strength would be improved in all aspects. Crusader Cass Maldini. He was able to cooperate with the clown in The Clown's Resurrection and fight against Purgatory Monk Togu, who was at his peak state. It was during the previous training that he obtained the improvement of his physical strength and combat skills. Due to the excellent evaluation in the previous training and the fact that Cass had successfully cleared the 4-star difficulty, The Clown's Resurrection, Part 1, he was given a second chance to participate in the training. Every training would be fully handled by one of the 13 Knight Legions. They would head to a secret base outside the city walls to conduct the training. Due to the temporary establishment of the base, therefore, the location and content of each training would be different. No one knew what kind of danger they would face during the training period. Faceless Head, Portable Prison. There were only 2 cells and a narrow corridor, and a large amount of black gas surrounded the small space. Han Dong had planned to take advantage of the 3 days to have a good rest. Who knew that he would enter the prison as soon as he returned to the dormitory to assist Miss Chen Li in her evil refining. After all, only Han Dong could truly control the iBook. This refining process lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. During this period there were many out-of-control situations. Even Togu, who was in the next room, came to help and bound Chen Li with iron chains. During this period, the poor Togu was slashed by a kitchen knife several times. The heaviest slash left a black mark on the surface of Togu's bald head and almost broke his copper skin and iron bones. However, Togu, who was hit by this kind of attack, had a face full of honeyed happiness. It seemed that this kind of pain that could hurt his body brought him spiritual pleasure. Evil chi converged. A unique evil bead condensed and formed in Chen Li's abdomen. Black hair fluttered, red eyes flashed. Her limbs also became more slender and slender. Chen Li grew. This scene swept away Han Dong's tiredness and a smile appeared on his face. Detected that Chun-Li the possessed. Evil refining has grown, the relevant containment information has changed. Containment method, perfect containment. Type, evil cultivator. After the evil transformation has succeeded in evil refining and condensed an evil pill in the body, they have become a true evil refining cultivator in the true sense. Combat rating. DDD advancement path. Absorb and refine the evil chi in other life forms, has changed. Ability 1. Evil body, the appearance will change, causing the body to break away from the human category to a certain extent, increasing the attribute value. 2. Kitchen knife, the original weapon. According to different combat situations, the shape of the weapon can be changed through the evil chi. Black hair floated in the air. However, Chun-Li's pupils gradually returned to their original state, staring straight at Han Dong, who had stayed here to accompany her for 2 days and 2 nights, with dark circles under his eyes. Togu released the chains. Clang at the moment when the chains were undone, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Chun-Li, with her black hair fluttering, quickly pounced on Han Dong. However, she did not hurt him, nor did any dangerous situation occur. Chun-Li spread out her slender arms and hugged Han Dong. Her red lips brushed against his earlobe, and she whispered in Han Dong's ear, "Thank you for always being with me, Mr. Han Dong." Chapter 173. National Royal Knight Academy. It was unanimously approved by the Parliament. In the name of the royal family, the Supreme Church, and the 13 Knights, it was jointly built to be the highest academy in the Holy City. According to the Fate profession, it was divided into 5 major departments. It was to standardize the training and management of the returnees. Correct the heart of a knight. Through the guidance of the knight mentors, the returnees were able to learn the most suitable combat skills or spells for themselves. At the same time, they would also be taught some experiential skills when facing the various monsters in the Fate realm. It would greatly increase their survival rate in the Fate realm, increase the selection rate of official knights, and continue to expand the knight order. In addition, there was also an adventurers' guild in the academy. At the same time, there were church and knight intelligence stations all over the city. They formed a communication relationship with the Adventurers Guild to collect, detect, and systematize the dangerous events in the Holy City and designate them as bounty missions. Through the mentors' suggestions, the Academy's enforcement, and even rewards, the apprentice knights were encouraged to actively accept bounty missions and deal with some small and medium-scale pollution events in the city. Come into contact with pollution in advance. Learn in advance how to deal with the polluted life, how to carry out the purification and pressure of the pollution. Although the pollution events in the city could not be compared to the dangers outside the city, but understanding the pollution in advance was still very beneficial. Regarding the National Royal Knight Academy, curriculum and school year division. Due to the Fate Realm's cooldown time limit, 1 year cooldown time, only 1 Fate point reward can be obtained in a Fate event. The Apprentice Knight's education was a 4-year system. The first year was also referred to as freshman. You need to meet the following 3 requirements in the first year to be able to enter the next year. 1. Clear the Fate Realm once, that is, 2 Fate points. 2. Deal with at least 5 bounty missions or be selected and complete 1 Knight training. 3. Meet all the learning targets at the end of the year, including the test of Heart of a Knight. There were no other mandatory requirements in the second year, but you need to clear the Fate Realm at least once. The third year was referred to as Junior. The requirements for this year were quite high. Moreover, many apprentice knights needed to delay their third year. Usually, the delay was half a year or at most 2 years. In the third year, you need to meet the following 4 requirements. 1. Clear the Fate Realm. You have 5 Fate points allocated to a major profession and enter the Seed Destruction stage. 2. Complete at least 20 missions. 3. participated in a night training, at least once. 4. Overall Combat Power Index meets the Academy's assessment standard, measured by actual combat assessment. Only by meeting these 4 requirements could one be promoted to the 4th year. By then, the apprentice knight's main experience would be on broken seed. 4th-year students had to use an extremely difficult method to break the seed, allowing the seed of destiny in their heads to germinate and grow into a talent tree that belonged solely to them, allowing them to cross over to a whole new stage. Once this was achieved, one would meet the graduation criteria of a novice knight. A large-scale event similar to the NBA draft will be held at the end of the year, a knight promotion. This group of students who had reached the graduation standard would complete a series of special tests, individual battles, and group battles under the watch of the leaders of the 13 knight orders. Through the test results and the characteristics of the individual, they will be chosen to join or voluntarily join a knight order that matches their values and ability system to become an official knight. The promotion of knights would take place in the Sacred City's Olympus Grand Arena. The event was open to the public. The venue could accommodate 8,000 spectators. At that time, under the gaze of the entire Sacred City, they would be promoted to the ranks of knights, respected by all, shouldering a great mission, and fighting for the cause of human freedom. Such a moment was what all the apprentice knights studying in the National Royal Knight Academy yearned for. In addition, there were also differences in the promotion of knight. They had received great honors in the 4 years of the Academy's activities, or passed through a difficult destiny event each time, or their talent tree was unique and powerful, and so on. All kinds of special factors would become bonus points. It was similar to the number 1 draft pick in the NBA. In each year's a knight promotion event, the 4 new knights with the highest comprehensive evaluation would be given a special title, 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The title came from the last chapter of the New Testament of the Bible, Revelation, chapter 6, which meant revelation from heaven. Revelation mentioned that on the day of Judgment Day, there would be a lamb that would be unsealed, summoning knights riding white, red, black, and green horses. The first knight was a white horse, symbolizing plague. The second knight was a red horse, symbolizing slaughter. The third knight was a black horse, symbolizing famine. The fourth knight was a green horse, symbolizing death. It meant that these 4 knights would bring plague, war, famine, and death to mankind, and then the world would be destroyed. However, the knights in the Holy City had a completely different meaning. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse here would bring hope to mankind. Therefore, in the knight promotion event, according to the performance and characteristics of these 4 knights, they would be given a unique and permanent title. In addition to being able to choose to join the knight order, they would also be able to receive various benefits in the future of their official knight career. Of course, this was only the beginning of their knight career. Even if they had a good start, they might not be able to stay at the forefront. Once they were disturbed by arrogance, once they slacked off, they would quickly fall from the peak. This was the entire process from entering the academy to graduation, and gradually growing into a knight. Currently, Han Dong had already been allocated 4 fate points in mysticism. As long as he could complete this knight training, he would be able to smoothly enter his 2nd year at the end of the semester. Han Dong's progress was already ahead of many people. But because the Destiny Realm had a cooldown of 1 year, if Han Dong wanted to pursue a secondary profession, he had to ensure that every time he entered the Destiny Realm, he would be able to complete the relevant events in his best condition, and unlock as many hidden missions as possible to obtain additional fate points. Let's go. Han Dong used the last day of rest to sleep in his dormitory for an entire day to replenish his energy. Today, the preliminaries of the night training would begin at 12 o'clock sharp. Han Dong made all the preparations and set off for the Lysamir Night Arena, located in the south-central part of the school. Who knew? Han Dong had just walked down the stairs and arrived at the hall of the dormitory. At the same time, two voices called out to Han Dong from different directions. Brother Lon. Student Nicholas. On one side was the handsome blonde Cass Maldini, who was wearing a silver knight armor. On the other side was Mia Semenovich, who was wearing a wizard hat, a black miniskirt and knee-length boots. Chapter 174. The Main Hall of the Dormitory. Just as the two of them called out Han Dong's English name at the same time, they immediately turned to look at each other. Alan's classmate? Cass, on the other hand, had a bright smile on his face as he nodded slightly at this witch apprentice in a friendly manner. He thought that this girl was a female classmate in the Mystic Academy who had a good relationship with Han Dong. However, Cass was still very optimistic that Han Dong would have a good relationship with Silas. Mia, on the other hand, stared strangely at this golden-haired knight who was full of righteousness. Strange. Why would he make friends with such an upright knight? Wouldn't it increase the risk of his secret being exposed? Han Dong, on the other hand, had a helpless expression. He had clearly asked her to stop pestering him, but she still came looking for him. This woman, however, since Cass was also in the hall, Han Dong could not directly tell Mia to get lost. Just as Han Dong smiled in response to the two of them, Mia did not care about what had happened that day at all. She stepped forward and grabbed Han Dong's thin and weak arm. Let's go. Let's go to the Samir Night Arena together and work hard to pass the preliminaries. If it were any other man, he would definitely be willing to have a young girl with such a good figure and face take the initiative to hug him. However, Han Dong was different. He immediately activated a certain ability, so much so that Han Dong's right arm seemed to have something squirming about. Mia, due to her spider's sensitive senses, instinctively let go of his arm when she sensed the danger. Just as Mia let go, Han Dong took the initiative to walk toward Cass. He had a happy expression on his face, as if they had not seen each other for a long time. After a friendly hug, Cass put his strong arm around Han Dong's shoulder as usual. They talked about some of the things that happened in the past 3 months as they walked out of the dormitory building. Mia was a little angry and pouted, but she was unusually excited. Wow. I didn't expect him to like this. That's great. The two men walked out of the dormitory with their arms around each other's shoulders. Cass also noticed that the girl was silently following behind them. Out of courtesy, he still asked Han Dong, "That girl? That girl over there, aren't you going to introduce her? I'm not that close with her. She's the only one who keeps bothering me. She's a student of Chironia Mason. She's a freshman in the same batch as me." Witch's student. There were a few well-known big shots in the school, and Cass knew them from the sound of it. He hurriedly turned around and waved at the girl again, briefly introducing himself. Then, Cass tilted his head and whispered into Han Dong's ear. "Brat, are you in a relationship with Knight Celeste? Is that why you don't dare to fool around outside?" "Don't talk nonsense. Sister Wino and I are just friends. I just don't want to interact with girls. It will affect my studies." Haha. Just like me, every time I had time to go home, my father would ask me to think about the matter between me and Sophia. However, I'm currently at an important stage of my growth, so I can't consider these things yet. Besides, before I become an official knight, I can't give Sophia enough guarantees and promises. I believe Sophia can understand this. Sophia and Coslin will also participate, right? Yes. However, even if Sophia and Brother Coslin pass the preliminaries, they won't be in the same group as you. After all, they're in the same batch as Year 2. Brother Lon, you're in the same batch as Year 1. There's such a classification? Han Dong wasn't very familiar with the rules of the knight's training, so he took the opportunity to obtain some information from Cass in advance. That's right. Novice knights of 5 stars and below can participate in the training. Once you pass the preliminaries, you'll be divided into Year 3, Year 2, and Year 1. The corresponding training intensity is different. I see. Cass gestured behind him. Actually, you can build a good relationship with this witch apprentice. Since she's a student of the witch, she should be able to pass the preliminaries. At that time, you'll be in the same group. It's good to take care of each other. After all, Brother Lon, it's not convenient for you to use some of your abilities during the training. It's fine. I can do it alone. Just like that, since the arena where the preliminaries were held wasn't too far away from the dormitory area, they could warm up in advance by walking there. Mia, on the other hand, was like an obedient girl. She followed behind him and maintained a distance of about 3 meters. She lowered her head and didn't say a word. From time to time, she would glance at Han Dong from the corner of her eyes. Even Cass felt awkward and wanted to try to get closer to Han Dong. The Samir Knight's Arena. It retained the characteristics of the ancient Roman Colosseum. It was an oval-shaped arena built with stone as its foundation. The long axis was about 201 meters long, the short axis was about 149 meters long, and the walls were about 50 meters high. Its size was the third largest among all the arenas in the Holy City. It was the first choice for large-scale activities in the Knight Academy. Usually, many knight groups would use this arena for training. There were 18 entrances at the bottom, all sealed with steam-type metal doors. After showing his knight certificate and entering the arena, Cass removed his arm from Han Dong's shoulder. Cass took out a document stamped with the Crusader seal and said, "Brother Lon, I'm in the second round of the preliminaries. I don't need to participate in the regular preliminaries. I need to give a detailed report confirmed by the Academy to the knight in charge of leading the team this time. I wanted to warn you about something, but with your ability, this kind of preliminaries is nothing. Good luck." Okay. Han Dong didn't pay attention to Mia, who was always beside him. After passing the relevant physical examination, he went straight to the center of the arena. There were already a large number of apprentice knights gathered here, waiting for the preliminaries to officially begin. Through the signs on the ground, the knights of different grades were separated into rows. This meant that the qualifiers would be different depending on the age group. As there were no rigid requirements to participate in the preliminaries, there was no limit to the number of participants. 80% of the apprentice knights would come here to give it a try. Even if they couldn't pass, they could gain some experience in the preliminaries and have a clear understanding of their own strength. Han Dong, a thin young man who was only 1.7 meters tall, was immediately treated by people who didn't know him as the one in charge of being at the bottom. Little magic eye. He was half open throughout the whole process, secretly observing the group of freshmen. Among the 200 freshmen, Han Dong noticed a few unusual apprentice knights. Their aura was completely different from the other apprentice knight. I'm not the only special apprentice knight. Chapter 175. Han Dong was about to enter the area designated as freshman. Someone gently tugged at his sleeve. "Hey, can I go with you? I swear I won't disturb you. Also, the witch told me a lot of details about the preliminaries. I'm willing to share them all. If there's a teaming segment, the two of us can greatly increase our chances of passing." Han Dong didn't respond to her directly. Instead, he looked at the wind-up timer on his wrist to confirm that there was enough time. "Come with me." "Okay." Han Dong quickly walked to the arena's resting area. As soon as he entered, he found a small, empty, dark space. *smack. *cabotin. As soon as Mia stepped in, Han Dong showed his unusually tough side and forced her into a corner. "I won the sparring match 3 days ago, right? The condition was for you to stop pestering me. I hope you can keep your promise." Being cabotin like this, coupled with Han Dong's unusually fierce gaze, Mia's eyes immediately became wet with tears. In response to the girl's tears, Han Dong replied with a cold expression, "You have tears, But your expression is a little exaggerated. Don't pretend in front of me, I'm not interested in women. As soon as he said this, Mia immediately put away her sorrowful expression and revealed a very interested expression as she asked tentatively, "What's the matter? You're not interested in women. Could it be you're interested in the blonde guy just now? At least not interested in you. What's your purpose?" "I don't have any purpose, I'm just interested in you. The first time I met you, I felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity, as if I met a confidant. You're letting me follow you in this night training? Also, if there's an accident and I accidentally get separated from the group during this training outside the city, with our special abilities, we'll definitely be able to survive if we work together. Besides, Mr. Black and White isn't here. If your identity is recognized by the leader of the Knights, I can still vouch for you, right?" Han Dong could already tell that Mia was planning to pester him to death. Therefore, Han Dong showed the number 1. "I have a condition. If you do anything that makes me feel inappropriate, our temporary partnership will be terminated immediately. At that time, if you still insist on pestering me, I'll give you a chance. I will think of a way to separate us from the main group. When we meet up with the main group again, I will be the only one left." Mia looked aggrieved. "You threaten me, all of a sudden." In the originally pitch-black resting area, dazzling ash particles floated out, and the temperature rose sharply. Meanwhile, a wisp of evil energy that Mia had never seen before also overflowed from Han Dong's body. Crunch, crunch, the sound of joints twisting, 2 twisted, slender, and long arms slowly crawled out of Han Dong's back. His black hair fluttered. A terrifying woman's face was reflected in the black hair. It was like the horrible scene in the Destiny realm where an evil spirit was attracted because of a wrong decision. Mia was so scared that she took 2 steps back. Smack! When she took a step back, Mia bumped into a solid object similar to a steel plate, and it was very hot. She looked back. It was not steel, but a bald man. A pair of demonic eyes from hell were staring at her. This man with a saw blade embedded in his forehead brought great pressure to Mia. At this moment, Han Dong spoke. "Do you still want to follow me?" Han Dong was very clear that although Mia's curse came from outside the city, she was still a human. This was also the reason why she could follow the witch without being suspected. However, her nature was definitely evil. Since Mia wanted to pester him, Han Dong might as well be frank. "As long as you get in the way, I'll get rid of you." Unexpectedly, something slightly out of Han Dong's expectation happened. Mia lowered her head and bit her soft lips tightly. She did not dare to raise her head to look at the woman in red floating beside Han Dong, nor did she dare to look back at the terrifying demon behind her. She walked forward slowly and reached out to grab the corner of Han Dong's clothes, nodding slightly. Yes. For a moment, the evil thoughts and the scorching heat of hell dissipated. When Mia raised her head again, Han Dong had already turned and stepped out of the resting area. However, Han Dong stretched out a hand over his shoulder and waved gently, indicating for her to hurry up and follow. Coming. Seeing that Han Dong accepted her, Mia was so excited that there was even a wisp of black gas under the mask. Several small spiders crawled out of Mia's ears and crawled into her mouth. Just like that, the two returned to the arena on time. Han Dong purposely stood at the very back, at a less conspicuous spot. Mia, on the other hand, stuck close to him, holding onto the corner of Han Dong's shirt. Han Dong said coldly, "You should be very famous in the mysterious academy, right? After all, you have the best results in our batch of outstanding students. Are you deliberately trying to attract the attention of others and increase the risk of us being exposed by holding on to me like this? Let go." Oh, Mia pouted her small mouth and looked aggrieved. She let go of her small hand but still leaned close to Han Dong to ensure that no third party would come between them. "Master, this woman is full of drama. Evil and dangerous. Why do you want her to follow you?" Do you really want to do her outside the city? Chunli had a lot of opinions about Mia, who was clinging to her master without letting go. Don't fight and kill for no reason, harmonious civilization. Since she doesn't want to let go, we might as well take this opportunity to find out the source of her curse. Once she leaves the city wall, her spider curse might change. At that time, we might even be able to borrow her for a while. Mr. Handong, are you going to trick people again? Sure. This is called a plan. Time was up. All the apprentice knights gathered in the arena were silent at the same time. This was because a heavy, irritable, and full of wildness aura instantly filled the entire arena. The behemoth knights are here. This aura. Could it be that the commander is here in person? The side door of the arena, the iron door that was specially used to release the giant beasts, slowly opened with the rotation of the gears. The passageway of the ordinary resting area couldn't accommodate the body of such a person. As the iron door opened, an even greater pressure was released. For a moment, about 60% of the students in the Year 1 area couldn't withstand this heavy pressure. Plop! Both knees fell to the ground. If it was the previous Handong, he would definitely fall to the ground and not get up. However, the current Handong didn't know if his body could withstand it. Handong could use a unique method to weaken the effect of the heavy pressure on his body. He stood still on the spot. He didn't pretend to fall. After all, this might also be a part of the preliminaries. Handong needed to stay standing. At this time, a giant body that was completely beyond the scope of a human squeezed out of the door. Every step caused the ground to tremble. Commander of the Behemoth Knights, came on Ryan. Chapter 176. Behemoth was the largest creature on the land. It could devour 1,000 mountains every day. It couldn't leave those mountains, otherwise time would be disordered. Because it was insatiable, God only created one. Among God's creations, Behemoth was the leader. Boom, boom, boom. Among the big figures Handong had seen, the great plague leader Mograin's body was already terrifying enough. However, it couldn't be compared with this man who came from the beast fighting sect. This person was far beyond the scope of human beings. His waist was 2.5 meters wide, and his overall height was more than 4 meters. A giant white fur of unknown origin was draped over his body, exuding a wild bestial aura. The exposed upper body had extremely exaggerated giant muscles. The mountain tattoo was imprinted on the surface of his body. For a moment, it made Handong feel like he was standing in front of a mountain. Not only his body, but even his spirit was under a terrible pressure. This person's wrist and ankle were wearing an extremely large and heavy alloy ring. Upon closer inspection, the space around the ring actually showed signs of slight distortion. It seemed to be caused by the high density of the ring itself. The ring should be the best equipment from the Destiny realm. Its effect seemed to be deliberately increasing the weight, but also seemed to be sealing a part of this person's energy. Let's talk about some of this person's inhuman characteristic. All the hair on his face was white. There were 2 giant curved teeth more than a meter long growing out of his chin. Through his long beard, they curved upward, somewhat similar to mammoth's tusks. His eyes had no pupils, they were all white. This appearance was not only like a human, but also like a prehistoric giant beast. Mia stuck close to him and whispered, "This person is known as the strongest creature in the holy city. The blood of the giant beast, Behemoth, flows in his body. His comprehensive strength should be ranked in the top 10 of the holy city." Behemoth, the change of physique, is it the harvest in the Destiny realm? Yes, it should be the blood of Behemoth that was exchanged from the Destiny realm with a large amount of points. Moreover, even if an ordinary person can obtain such blood, they can't control it. Before the blood exchange, Kaimon Ryan's physique could be ranked in the top of the holy city. He majored in control and was born as an orc. Well, thank you. Oh, no need to thank me. As the team leader walked to the center of the arena, his white eyes looked at everyone. Those who can't even withstand a little bit of pressure can scram. Don't make me say it again. With such abilities, you still want to follow me outside the city wall. Don't insult the identity of knights. The novice knight who couldn't stand straight was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Because this pressure did not decrease. This group of apprentice knights could only crawl away in shame. How irritable! Han Dong stood silently in place and scanned the people who remained in the field. Before the official preliminaries even began, nearly 1/3 of the apprentice knights had already left. This elite training will be led by the Behemoth Knights. The venue chosen for this training, the various requirements, and the rules related to the qualifiers would all be different from before. This was the result of my application to the council. What I hope is that among the apprentice knights here, if you have any thoughts of luck, please leave as soon as possible. Because this little bit of luck will lead you to make irreversible measures in the training, which will lead to your own death and bring trouble to others. After listening to this speech, the students present were mentally prepared in advance and were temporarily unmoved. After all, the Roy Knight training itself had a very high position. Every year, different knight groups would lead the team, so there would always be some differences in style. However, at this time, team leader Kaimon opened a huge map outside the city. The destination of this training was marked with a red cross. An undeveloped woodland 69 kilometers away from the holy city, many of the students present who had a detailed understanding of the knight training had a very ugly face. They gritted their teeth and turned around to leave. Indeed, their hearts were not very firm. Just like this, about 10% of the students left the field. At this time, Mia quietly explained to Han Dong, "Wow. So far. Generally, the night training will be carried out in an area that is less than 30 kilometers away from the holy city. This time, it is more than twice the usual distance. Moreover, they chose to carry out the training in a woodland with a lot of variables. Once the spirit is affected and accidentally separated from the group, it will be very difficult to walk out alive. The distance is more than 60 kilometers. Without the escort of the night group, it is impossible for us apprentice knights to return to the holy city on our own. Is that so? I understand." Han Dong did not say thank you this time, but Mia slightly pouted and said, "I told you some confidential and important information, why don't you thank me? You are a little bit despicable." After being scolded by Han Dong like this, Mia actually showed an excited expression, as if she liked it very much. Team leader Kaimon looked at the remaining apprentice knights. There should be two kinds of people left who are willing to stay here. One is the true elites who can follow the Behemoth Knights out of the city, and the other is the blind juniors who have no self-awareness at all. Let's use the preliminaries to decide. At this time, many people were already rubbing their hands and warming up. According to the previous rules, the preliminaries would test the basic physical attributes of the apprentice knights through various instruments. The apprentice knights ranked within 100 would have the opportunity to leave the city. But it was different this time. Boom! Team leader Kaimon suddenly sat down. Not only did he sit down, but the ground also shook violently. The preliminaries have been changed. I will personally confirm whether you can follow the Behemoth Knights out of the city. There is no strict quota. As long as I think you can do it, then you can. Starting from here, walk in front of me one by one. Starting from the area where the third-year apprentice was standing. A library apprentice who only relied on his magic shield to block the heavy pressure calmly walked in front of Kaimon. They looked at each other. Not bad. You pass, next. Immediately after, a strong crusader with a huge sword on his back walked up and looked at Kaimon. You can't do it, next. Wait, team leader Kaimon. Why can't I do it? I have already reached the seed-breaking stage. My physical attributes and combat skills are at the top. Following this Crusader apprentice's question, team leader Kaimon, who was sitting upright, suddenly leaned forward and let two mammoth tusks graze the apprentice's cheek. They looked at each other closely. I said you can't do it, so you can't do it. If you continue to talk nonsense, I will destroy you. Next. As soon as he said this Crusader apprentice was so shocked that he lost consciousness and was carried away by the staff in the arena. Chapter 177. Han Dong roughly understood the rules of the preliminaries after watching the interviews of nearly 100 people. Third-year students have at least 3 fate points invested into their main talent. Moreover, after going through nearly 3 years of academy training, they have already received enough training and have handled a large number of bounty missions. The rules of the preliminaries set by Commander Kai are very simple, to judge whether a person is qualified or not by judging their fear tolerance. For us freshmen, the requirements should be slightly lower. However, Commander Kai didn't seem to have any intention of taking care of the junior apprentice knights. When it came to the second-year students, the passing rate plummeted. Even Koslin and Sophia, whom Han Dong knew, had barely passed the test. Just like that, it was the turn of the freshmen who had just entered the academy for 3 months. Commander Kai Meng said impatiently, I don't really like taking care of freshmen. You can all wait until next year to participate in the easier night training. For this trip out of the city, I have almost the same requirements for every apprentice knight. If it wasn't for the council's mandatory requirements for personnel selection, I wouldn't be willing to take you bunch of hairless brats out of the city. If you don't meet any of the requirements in the training, don't even think about passing the final examination. Even if you can come back alive, this time's night training will be marked as unqualified. If you still insist on staying, then line up and stand in front of me. Since Commander Kai didn't plan to take care of the junior apprentice knights, and the pressure from before eliminated a large number of new apprentice knights, there were only 13 left. Currently, only 13 people remained, standing in a line in front of Kai Meng. At least it shows that you have some courage. Let me see what you freshmen are capable of. Kai Meng's white eyes slowly swept across the row of freshmen. The pressure doubled, and the mental burden increased by more than 3 times. Many people's sweat flowed out from their pores the moment they were stared at, soaking their clothes and dripping down. The biological instinct in their bones was drawn out, and they couldn't stop their legs from trembling. But there were also a few apprentice knights who were unmoved by the stare at such a close distance. Just as Commander Kai Meng's gaze swept past Han Dong, his white eyes suddenly stopped, because he unexpectedly saw a unique crow mark on the back of Han Dong's right hand. Facing Captain Kaiman's stare, Yi Zichen nodded. Han Dong's body was obviously thin and weak, and his skin was even yellowed due to lack of nutrition. However, he did not move at all and maintained his normal standing posture. That's weird. Kai Meng leaned forward and purposely got closer to Han Dong. In that moment, the pressure increased by several times. That crow, it's taking in a student? Are you his student? Han Dong could not resist such special treatment. He nodded slightly and squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. Yes. Interesting. Kai Meng retracted his body, as if a huge mountain had been removed from Han Dong's body. He continued to look at the next person. After his gaze swept over Mia, he gave the conclusion of the examination of the freshmen, pointing to 6 freshmen. This batch of rookies is pretty good. They exceeded my expectations. The 6 of you can participate in the group training. Go back and prepare. The danger level of this group training is much higher than the previous ones. The 6 of you may have good prospects in the future. It's not worth it to die. During the group training, I will still take care of you rookies with potential. The 6 of you will be classified as a special team. My assistant will be secretly responsible for your safety. The relevant requirements will be explained in detail during the group training. Go back and prepare all the supplies. Gather at the city gate at 9 o'clock tomorrow. The same goes for the other apprentice knights. Go back and enjoy your last day of peace. Thank you, Commander Kai Meng. Among the 6 selected rookies, Han Dong and Mia were naturally included. Just as the 6 of them were preparing to follow the other senior students and leave the arena together, Commander Kai Meng suddenly said, "You two, wait a moment before you leave." The two here. One was referring to Han Dong. The other was referring to a special male student among the 6 selected freshmen. An apprentice knight with spiky white hair, and wearing a simple animal skin coat. Seeing this, Mia hurriedly tugged at the corner of Han Dong's shirt and said softly, "Congratulations on being chosen by Captain Keeman. He will be waiting for you outside the arena." Han Dong remained where he was and did not give any response. After waiting for everyone to stand, Commander Kai Meng laughed out loud for some reason. Some time ago, I heard that the Crow recruited a student. I just took it as a joke. I didn't expect to meet you today. Since you are the Crow's student, you should be outstanding in the aspect of perception, right? What is your name?" "Warren Nicholas." The two of you have a much higher fear tolerance than your peers. Not bad. I can leak some of the group training arrangements to you in advance. The theme of this group training is survival in the wilderness. You need to live alone outside the city for a period of time without help. Of course, I also said that. You freshmen have a lot of potential. As long as you don't die, you will have a good future. I will also send people to take care of you in secret to ensure your safety as much as possible. However, there are still risks. Therefore, I asked you two to stay here. There is a special task for you in advance. As long as you can do it well, I will give you an excellent evaluation in the group training file. That's right. This is my eldest grandson. Abel, you and Nicholas get to know each other. Eldest grandson. Han Dong noticed this white-haired student with a unique aura among the freshmen at the beginning. With the vision of the little magic eye, this person was exuding a wild white aura. This white aura would sometimes gather around Abel's body to form the faces of various beasts. In Han Dong's eyes, this young man Abel should be the strongest among the freshman apprentice knights. He didn't expect him to be the grandson of Commander Kai Meng. "Hello, I am Abel Ryan, majoring in control. I am honored to be able to participate in this elite group training with the students of the Crow Prophet." Unexpectedly, this white-haired boy wearing animal skin was fundamentally different from Commander Kai Meng. His words didn't have Kai Meng's manic and beastly nature. Instead, he was very polite. "Hello." When Han Dong reached out to shake hands with this person, he directly felt the power of this student Abel. He was fundamentally different from other apprentice knights. If Han Dong's good friend, Cass, was considered superior among the apprentice knights of the same rank, then this Abel Ryan was the one who stood at the top among the apprentice knights of the same rank. Staring at the scene of the two shaking hands, Commander Kai Meng couldn't help but open the memory that had been sealed for a long time in his mind. At the top of the hill where corpses were everywhere, he stood at the top of the hill with his whole body covered in monster fluid. His beastly nature was unleashed and his rage was hard to suppress. Coupled with the deep contamination, when the beastly Kai Meng was about to go berserk, a crow flew over and stopped on his shoulder. Chapter 178. The special mission I want to give you is, for this elite training, the 6 selected freshmen will establish a special team on the basis of the original team. One of my deputies will secretly ensure the safety of your team. But I won't pay for your major mistakes. Abel Ryan. Here. Abel knelt on one knee, then supported his body with his right fist and lowered his head respectfully. There was no hint of affection in his eyes at all, as if he was a soldier receiving an important order from his superior. "You will be the captain of this special team." "Yes, sir." Warren Nicholas. Here. You will be the chief of staff and deputy captain of this special team, assisting Abel throughout. Yes, sir. Cayman's following words were unusually firm, and his voice directly echoed in the minds of the two. The two of you will work together to manage the six-man team and ensure the safety of all members. During the training, if there are any serious casualties in the team, you will be held responsible. On the other hand, as long as you can lead the team to complete the relevant requirements during the training period without any deaths, you will receive an excellent evaluation on the evaluation form. Any other questions? Since Captain Cayman had arranged it this way, Han Dong naturally couldn't refuse. As far as Han Dong was personally concerned, he didn't want to take on such a position. Han Dong's personality was more inclined to act alone. Moreover, there were too many unknown factors outside the city walls, plus his connection with the mysterious yellow robe. If he encountered an abnormal situation outside the city, the possibility of his secret being exposed would greatly increase. Of course, when the time came, he could also shift the blame to Mia, or use her as a shield. Establishing a temporary relationship with Mia is also a correct decision. That's all for now. I hope you can prepare well after this and don't let me down. Okay. Han Dong left first. Han Dong felt that it was necessary to report to Mr. Black and White about what happened today. After watching Han Dong leave, the smile on Abel Ryan's face immediately disappeared, and he turned to Captain Cayman with a strange expression. Grandfather, there's something strange about this person. No matter if it's his appearance or the handshake just now, I can't believe it. In my opinion, his standard should be slightly above average. But when I get close to him, or when I look at him directly, the 100 beasts in my body will feel a faint sense of danger. It's very strange, as if there's something extremely dangerous hidden in his body, even more terrifying than my 100 beasts. When Abel said this, not only did Commander Kai Meng not have any expression of doubt, he instead had a happy expression. He rubbed the huge tusks that grew out of his chin as he said, "Ha ha." After all, this was the student that Crow had taken a fancy to. If it's not strange, then there's a problem if he's only slightly above average. Abel asked curiously, "Is there any special meaning behind Grandfather's arrangement?" "Grandfather, even if you don't directly appoint me as the captain. According to my prestige and strength among the freshmen, when the time comes, they will naturally elect me as their leader. If this student of the Raven Prophet possesses a special ability and extraordinary decision-making ability, he would naturally become the cornerstone of the team when encountering a dangerous situation." Kai Meng very patiently explained to his eldest grandson, "My purpose in doing this is only to determine the relationship between the two of you in advance. I hope that this student chosen by the Raven will be on good terms with you. With your talent and unique physique, you will definitely inherit the position of commander of the Behemoth Knights in the future. But, if you want to bring the Knight Regiment to a higher level, it won't be easy. If this person can grow to the same level as you in the future, then with your relationship of life and death, you can invite him to be the chief of staff of the Behemoth Knights. This will directly allow the overall standard of the Knight Regiment to take a big step forward." Abel had a face full of surprise. He had never seen his grandfather have such a high evaluation of a person. "Grandfather, could it be that you saw something special about him? Is he that powerful?" "No. I don't believe in this kid, I just believe in the Raven's vision. This Raven's position in the Holy City is one level higher than many of our commanders. To be able to be chosen by the Raven, his talent must be equal to the Raven's, or even better, or there must be something special that we can't see clearly. I really want to have a chance to meet this Raven Prophet. There will naturally be a chance in the future. In short, make a good relationship with this student, and try to understand some of his secret." "Understood. Mr. Black and White's reputation is really big. I didn't think that he would have such a deep relationship with Commander Kai Meng. Speaking of which, with the power given by the Destiny Realm, humans can actually evolve to this level. If such a giant existence like Commander Kai Meng went to the world I was in, it would be like a walking human nuclear bomb. The balance of the world might be broken because of him. Han Dong could see that Commander Kai Meng thought so highly of him only because of his relationship with Mr. Black and White. Just as Han Dong stepped out of the arena, two soft hands suddenly wrapped around him. He was immediately held tightly by two soft and slender arms. He didn't need to think to know who it was. Wow. Commander Kai Meng actually asked you to stay and talk with Abel alone. What did you guys talk about, can you tell me? Han Dong didn't answer Mia's question. Instead, he asked, do you know Abel? You're probably the only freshman who doesn't know him. Who doesn't know Abel Ryan's name? He's Kai Meng's eldest grandson. When he entered the school, he passed the 4.5-star difficulty newbie event. In addition, Abel's comprehensive test score was full marks. It's an extremely rare full mark of excellence. He's known as a rare genius in the field of beast control. It's rumored that Abel seems to have a special kind of beast physique. His true potential is even higher than his grandfather, Commander Kai Meng. That powerful? That's right. It's just that no matter how powerful this Abel is, he won't take a second look. He's always only interested in you. Can you do me a favor tonight? Sure. I want detailed information on the 6 newcomers this time. Please help me sort it out. What's there to sort out? How about this? You can just come to my treehouse tonight. I'll tell you slowly in bed. Anything you want to know, including other people's private matters, I can tell you. Mia's hint was already very obvious, but Han Dong wasn't interested at all. Come with me to the stargazing room, first? I have something to talk to Mr. Black and White about. Okay. Mia was a little hesitant. She didn't seem to be ready to meet Mr. Black and White. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.